going on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmission, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. We're back for another live stream, and as ever, co-hosting this thing with me is the homeboy Rob.
What's going on, everybody?
We got we got topics of the day, and of course, the very last movie review for this month. And just to remind you, the theme for this month was love story. I guess subjectively, it's what we would define as a good love story.
Yeah, and I think we didn't just do like romantic comedies. We kind of like did a few different genres within the love stories
within the umbrella of the genre of like love story.
Yeah, and some might be we didn't do like When Harry Met Sally, or what are some of the other famous, like Love Actually, or something like that, the big famous ones. But there's a lot of people
the more commercially successful ones.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people talk about those films, and we'll eventually get to those. But we wanted to highlight ones that we enjoy and think deserve a look.
Yes, and to cap off the Love Story month, we will be reviewing "You Are My Sunshine," a Korean movie from 2005. One of my favorites, actually. I was introduced to this movie, I think a couple years after it premiered in Korea, and it just stuck with me. The story just stuck with me.
Oh yeah, it's because I watched it for the very first time based off of your choice, and I was like, all right, we'll do that one, and I was like, it was very, very good. I had never heard of it, and I'm usually pretty keen on Korean movies. Never heard of this one, so it was fun watching it.
Yeah, so so we'll get that there, towards the end of the stream tonight. But I'll just say this: it's very kind of typical in the style of like drama for like Korean movies and things, where it's like there's elements of like kind of overbearing like cheese and like kind of like almost like saccharine kind of
there are
cutesy love.
This is a little cheesy.
Yeah. It's like a little, kind of, leading towards like kind of like the saccharine, like overly kind of like sweet kind of stuff. But then like also, because Koreans, we love our dramas. Then comes in the meat hook to just like rip out your guts. And
there was like 90% seriousness in the film, like and like some really serious acting, and then there was some in the movie where I'm like, this is a bit much.
Yeah.
But overall, it's a good movie.
Yes.
I can't wait to review it.
All right. Anything interesting happened to you over the weekend, Rob?
No, not much. I've actually had a lot of time on my hands this weekend for once, and I just kind of watched it myself too, which is also very rare. So I enjoyed a bunch of movies this weekend. I watched like Cry Macho, the most recent Clint Eastwood movie, which actually was pretty damn good. It's not his best film by any means, but it, for the guy being 90
plus
years old, that he directed and starred in, pretty damn good. He still plays kind of that curmudgeon-y type of character that he always plays, but that's what we love about Clint Eastwood. I like curmudgeon old man.
Right. The what is it? The Gran Torino Clint Eastwood will always be my favorite. Clint Eastwood.
Oh, dude, that's a movie that we definitely need to do at some point.
Yeah, I think I think we should do a Clint Eastwood month.
I was thinking the same thing when I was
Yeah,
watching. I was like,
but
we
we
should
should
do a Clint Eastwood month.
right, but we should definitely do one where like to maximize the amount of Clint Eastwood, we should do one. Well, we should do it on a month with 5 Tuesdays.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Then then we have to like decide: are we doing films that just have Clint Eastwood in them, or are they ones that are directed and starring Clint Eastwood?
Again, another dilemma.
Yeah, exactly. Where do you go?
Where do you
What else?
go?
I also went down. I'm pretty sure you know the film Primal Fear.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm aware of it, but I never saw it.
You haven't seen it yet, but that director, Gregory Hoblit, he actually had a pretty strong run in like the 90s after Primal Fear. Like he did films called, he did Primal Fear, he did Fallen, Frequency, and then
Frequency. I do. We have to do that one. That's a really good one.
Frequency is very good. I actually was like, start off, I was like, I don't know, like the premise sounded kind of like, this sounds stupid. And as I got
but it's so good. It's so good.
Really freaking good.
It's really good. Like you think like it would run into like all of like these like kind of cliche science fiction time travel tropes, but
no,
not at all. Or at least he does it in a way where it's like creative.
Oh, it's very creative. Yeah, I'm starting to really like that director, Gregory Hoblit. Like I actually kind of want to see what other films he has, because he gets these really great actors, and you got like Richard Gere and Edward Norton, that's probably his best one so far. I think that's his best one. Mm-hmm. But Fallen and Frequency and Fracture are also incredibly good in their own way. Mm-hmm. So I watched those. I watched some Sidney Poitier films. I watched
he recently passed.
Yeah, he just because I was like, I should watch some of his movies, and because I've seen quite a few of them. Obviously I watched In the Heat of the Night, which is great. I watched one of his early films called Blackboard Jungle with him and Glenn Ford together, which is a good movie. I just watched, was it No Way Out? Yeah, I think it was I think it's called No Way Out, where he plays a doctor who ends up having to deal with like these racist patients who are he was working on prison inmates as a doctor, and so there's this. It was actually really good, and then I watched Guess Who's Coming to Dinner as well.
Yeah, I think the only Sidney Poitier movies I think I saw or have seen are that one, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and then To Sir with Love.
I haven't seen that one yet. And I'm actually starting to think that because Katharine Hepburn, who is also an actress I really like, I'm starting to think that I might start calling her the Black Widow, because she starred in 3 movies that were like the last films of these actors before they died. She was because Spencer Tracy died a month after, or no, actually a couple of weeks after they finished wrapping up Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. She also started in the last film of Bogart's career, The African Queen. He died shortly after that, and she was also in the last film of Henry Fonda's career, and he died shortly after filming On Golden Pond in 1984, I think. It's in the 80s. I'm like, I'm gonna call her Black Widow. She all these actors that she starred with died after those films were done, but it's kind of
highly alleged. Yes, I mean, I guess you couldn't. It's really hard not to come to that conclusion. I mean, given the evidence at hand.
But all those movies are really fantastic and pretty fantastic. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner was really good, though that's more of a Spencer Tracy film than a Sidney Poitier film.
Right, because it's more about the white dad who's like has to come to terms with his own prejudices and whatever.
And I have to say that I don't think it's because he's like, I don't think he's a racist guy at all, but I think it's like all of a sudden, like, your daughter, who honestly kind of a jerk, her and the Sidney Poitier's character, they're kind of a jerk. You're coming like all of a sudden like with like no, like, hey, like, I met this guy, I'd like you to meet him. I really like him. I'd like you to meet him. It's like, we're gonna get married, and if you don't approve right this second, it's like, what? That's kind of like.
I mean, it's yeah. I think sometimes that movie sometimes is perceived wrongly because despite the filmmaker's intentions, but that's more of like here's your bratty entitled daughter who goes and meets this guy, and that she comes to you like it says, if you he's like, you need to approve of our marriage right now.
And even like the Sidney Poitier's character, his parents don't really approve of marriage either.
Right. I mean, maybe we're giving it away, giving the ending away, but yeah, it's like because what is it? When he goes to see the girl's parents, he makes a phone call to his parents, and they're all excited about like, oh, he met a girl and da da da, and then they until they find out that she's a white girl, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's kind of an asshole movie. I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying. I to me, I don't see like where this is a movie. I mean, yes, there are, kind of those the race elements to that, of course, but I don't see that as the problem. Like, I don't think that's like the shocking element of.
Right. I mean, if anything, it, like you could make an argument for like their age difference, because Sidney Poitier's character, he's already had like a wife and a kid. So it's obviously he's much older than her. So it's like, if anything, like you can make an argument for like like the age gap. It's just like, what the fuck are you doing with like this like 20 something, and what the fuck are you doing with this old man?
Yeah.
Who? I mean, probably in real life, Spencer Tracy was much older than Sidney Poitier. But just like, he could practically be your father.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with bad life decisions, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure in the movie they were, their characters were probably closer together in terms of age. So it's just like, yeah, what the fuck are you doing with a guy who's like, who could be your father?
Yeah. But so
I think because like a lot of people will play up the race stuff, but it's like, I really, I think it's just more about cultural norms as opposed to just or just not cultural norms, but just kind of like generally accepted things. I mean, like, what if like through some like they decide to like mix up the casting a little bit, and they made Spencer Tracy like the love interest or whatever, just like no way anyone would accept that, or like no way anyone would like tolerate such a just. I mean, because Spencer Tracy looks rough in this movie. Don't get
Well, I mean, he's on death's door. I mean.
But what is it? Like, no way anyone would like accept like this like hugely like desperate or disparate May-December relationship.
Yeah. But so that was, but it was a good movie. I really enjoyed it. I hadn't seen it in a long time, so it was kind of nice to kind of go through it again. I also watched some other Catherine and Spencer Tracy films.
Really quickly though, just kind of putting my final words to guess who's coming to dinner. But I thought it was really great that they also showed like the prejudice of Sidney Poitier's character's father.
Yeah, I know. I think that's very fair. Like,
it's very fair because it wasn't just like a one-way portrayal where it's like oh yeah, of course the the white guy is going to be prejudiced against the black guy or whatever. But then it's like, the black father had a problem with his black son marrying a white girl, and it's just like,
see where I thought was interesting about it is, to me, there was, for the girl's parents, it was Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. I don't think the problem, there was definitely surprise that it was that she is attracted to this black guy, but it wasn't like, what the hell are you doing? I think it's more of like the shock of like, you're having us like make this decision at the last second. Like that's the thing that's like was more, problematic, for her parents. Whereas for Sidney Poitier's parents in the movie, theirs is more of a race issue.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Because like Katharine Hepburn's character, like the mom, like she, like it's like she, and after like the initial shock of like of meeting him, she was mostly cool about it, or she was mostly supportive.
Once she saw that her daughter truly did love this person, she's like, I'm in. I'm on board. I'm 100% supportive. And of course, any dad is going to be like a little bit whoever it is going to be protective of his daughter. And it's like, wait, you're very young and you're making this very brash decision. Like, you met this person 10 days ago, and all of a sudden you want to like, get married and like fly off to Geneva. It's kind of like, let's slow your roll. Let's talk about this. Not because like there's nothing wrong with the guy. The guy is fine. It's like
but I mean, like in general, like any father would be very protective of their daughter. It's like, you're gonna put what into my daughter? Fuck you! And like it's like, oh, where did you go? It's like, I don't know. It's and like flip, drop him off like the top of their penthouse. It's like, oh, I don't know where he went.
Yeah. It's like, putting my shotgun. It's like, so you want to marry my daughter? Huh? But exactly. That's a movie we'll have to review at some point. And then but I also watched like another Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn film, which they did 9 of together.
Yeah, no, it's I remember. What was it? Like their romance was kind of highlighted in
there was
the Howard Hughes biopic. The Aviator.
Yeah, they lot of that was kind of like one of Hollywood's like big open secrets. Like everyone kind of knew that they were together, but like they just kind of allowed them to keep their privacy.
Right.
It's just kind of a weird story, to be honest. But
I mean, if the biopic is to be believed, then thanks to Howard Hughes, because he leveraged his influence or whatever. If the story in The Aviator is true.
I kind of think that is. I have a feeling it is. So I watched another one of their films, Keeper of the Flame, which is a kind of, it's a great noir mystery, which I enjoyed it. I think that's pretty much all the films I watched this past weekend. I like I said, I had nothing else to do, so I was just like, yeah, let's check this out. Let's check out this movie. And I have a few others that I have like kind of on my playlist right now that I'm gonna probably start working through this week, including the one we're gonna do our review on. So.
I see. Okay.
But yeah, that was pretty much my weekend. That's essentially all I did.
Let's see. Yeah, I had a pretty quiet weekend myself. Although I did go over to my cousin's place because her mom, my aunt, it was her birthday, so we were kind of like celebrating, and it's my cousin with the daughter, that had cancer, and so my entire family's been kind of really trying to observe like the social distancing or whatever, and like because Yeah, because like my parents and my aunts and uncles, they're all older now, and so they're the ones at risk, and so my family's been really really diligent about that kind of thing. But interestingly enough, my cousin and her her family, meaning like her kids and stuff, and husband, all well now they all contracted the Rona, and so
Of course it did. I mean, here's the thing. Not to talk about this too much, but it's like it's endemic now.
Yeah, no, I
It's
mean to
gonna
the
be
point where the governor is now talking about his endemic plan and
yeah.
going forward and all this hogwash. But yeah, no, it was good to see them. I think the last time I saw my niece was maybe 2 years ago, like in 2020. I don't know. 'Cause I did. I mean, the last time I did take a last time it was like around my birthday. And now I think that was the last time I saw her, like in person, I should say.
Yeah.
Um, but no, it was good seeing her. Good seeing all my nieces. My cousin actually had another baby during the last year, so she had a COVID baby.
Oh, all right. Well, that's congratulations for that.
Yeah.
I mean, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, I know, right? But no, it was good. Spending time with family. Seeing faces.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, and then and of course I watched the movie for the movie review, and then I actually saw the latest Kingsman movie that came out.
Yeah, I just saw on that it's on HBO. I'm gonna check it out
Yeah,
because
yeah.
what do you think?
It was very entertaining. For some reason, initially when I first watched it, I wasn't sure how I felt about it, and then I watched it again, and I started enjoying it for like other reasons. Not as I mean, maybe partly because like kind of like because it's essentially been delayed like 2 years, um,
Yeah, yeah,
and it doesn't necessarily show its age. I mean, 2 years, like what's 2 years?
right.
But I don't know. It's just like I don't know. It felt a little, I think it went on a little bit longer, or I just, the maybe like choices in editing, like for some reason they just weren't like clicking with me. But overall, it was a very enjoyable film, and I definitely enjoyed kind of like the alternative history aspect. You know,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, I think it's kind of cool. That's why this set like this is the beginning of the Kingsman service, right?
right? Yeah, like like kind of the founding of the Kingsman Agency, and
Yeah,
but then also like but the alternative history of what was going on during that time
right. Because it's in
was
like what World
really
War
was
One or just before World War One.
right, but it's like it adds like this other element where like like everything that happened during like um, that first 20 or 30 years of the 20th century was all concocted from like this kind of this nefarious group. So
Oh,
like
interesting.
yeah, so like figures like Rasputin and the and Mara Hari and
Oh, wow.
and even Lenin were like kind of like orchestrated by like the secretive kind of like what Spectre was to MI5, this new like this kind of fictionalized group uh, pulling the strings behind the scenes was the Spectre to the Kingsman MI6.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, That's. It looked like it was just be like a good, fun movie,
Mm-hmm.
which the Kingsman movies are.
Yeah.
I like both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like this third one.
Right. Yeah. I always enjoy those kind of like alternative history kind of tilts to
Yeah,
stories. I mean, like what is it? A little bit. more recently, but in MIB3, Men in Black 3, where Jay goes back in time, and then it's discovered that Andy Warhol is actually a MIB agent.
Yeah.
Kind of undercover. I really enjoyed that for some reason. Because especially
super enjoyable. I really like that movie, and it has such a touching ending.
Right, yeah. It's like, and this all the alternative kind of history stuff where it's like the moon landing, or like the Apollo mission. It necessarily wasn't funded by Men in Black, but the Men in Black were able to use it for ulterior purposes and
right, yeah.
And and again, with the whole thing of the revelation that Andy Warhol was actually an MIB agent. It was great because one of the lines was because he was begging the younger Agent K. He's like, K, you got to get me out of here. I'm running out of ideas. I'm drawing, I'm painting soup cans and bananas. It's just arguably his most iconic works.
Yeah.
And so. Yeah, just the idea that one of the greatest artworks of the 20th century came up from the kind of the exasperations of a stressed out agent.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious to me.
And you're one of the guys that is one of the founders of contemporary art, and
yeah,
compared to people in J.
Yeah, I mean, because I come from an arts background, so I could opine on this. But the problem with contemporary art is that what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, whoever's first is king.
Right.
Because you can't do oh God, what's that guy? There was an artist. I forget what his name was. Duchamp. There you go, Duchamp. Emmanuel Duchamp. He entered a urinal into an art contest and kind of flipped it on its side and then titled it The Fountain. And won rave reviews and stuff. But no one else can do that.
No.
It's not like anyone else can take a urinal or whatever, just put it onto its side and it's art. It's one of the definitions of contemporary art is take something functional and take the function out of it and you have art. So take a chair and prop it up on it, not on its four legs but on its back and put it into a corner so it takes up space. It's art. But it's just you have to be the first one to do it though.
Yeah.
And so so that's the Achilles heel of the kind of contemporary modern art movement is that you have to be first.
I can't do a suit the pro can.
See, there you go.
I'm very inspired by and he's not alive today. I just really want to bring him back.
Right. No, seriously. I remember a classmate of mine. She shared a meme about art, and it used those old timey caricatures, and it's oh you sound you really sound so you really know what you're talking about. Yes, I'm an expert at things I just made up.
Yeah,
it's just yeah. So yeah, of course, and part of an artist's job is to sell their bullshit.
I'm gonna give myself a fake Native American name because that's probably the only way I'm gonna get into one of those art galleries to sell my art. I'm gonna be an
exactly. I always I kind of as a parody. I always said if I'm gonna become a famous artist, I'm gonna change my name. I was gonna use my given name, which those of you who know me was not Andrew Chung. I had my name changed.
No way.
Yeah, so I was gonna be Han William.
There you go.
You know, and I was gonna like talk with with a very thick German accent.
To make sure I have a black neck.
There you go.
Wireframe glasses.
No. You have to do, wear a black turtleneck, but don't call it black. Call it onyx.
Oh, yeah, an onyx.
Right? Because it's like because you have to be slightly off. You know, it's like so again because you can't like be seen to be like copying other people. So like because Andy Warhol did the turtleneck thing. What is it? Steve Jobs did the black turtleneck thing, but you have to do an onyx turtleneck. But yeah, like part of art is selling the bullshit, and and some people are really good at selling bullshit. I mean, art. Andy Warhol is really good at selling bullshit.
I get, yeah. Part of me thinks is like this guy's like laugh their ass off like when no one's in the room. It's like, can you believe I just sold that piece of shit for $1 million?
Yeah, and I mean sometimes literally a piece of shit.
I know.
I remember an artist like he canned his shit, or supposedly canned his shit, and and that's kind of like the art because like you're given this tin like that's like vacuum sealed or sealed, and it supposedly contains the artist's shit, but there's no real way of verifying this unless you open the can, which will then destroy the art or destroy the value.
Or you have like the physical art that like the that like some people do. Like I was like twerking for injustice, or the that swept like metal pole to his you're just smacking against a pole, and dink dink. It's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I know.
We laugh at these people, but they make like $1 million off their stupid artwork.
No, I know exactly.
You trick some rich asshole into buying it. It's like you're sold. You've made it.
Yeah, I mean there was what was it? There was like there was a painting done with like ketchup, and it wasn't like an actually like good painting. It was just more like squiggles, and that painting sold for like $2 million or something. I think we talked about it. But,
like what I'm gonna do, like the other thing I'll do is like I'm gonna have like this giant canvas, like it takes up like an entire like like museum wall. It's all gonna be one color, and it's gonna like I'm just gonna have like one dot that's like another color, slightly different. It's like I'm gonna title them "Where's Waldo."
Yeah, exactly. I guess one last thing. I get talking about this, but I remember one of my favorite episodes of Malcolm in the Middle is the episode where like the dad he kind of has like some weird kind of like psychotic break. I mean, nothing terrible, but just like
which is almost every episode of Malcolm in the Middle.
That's true, but like that's actually not wrong. But for some reason, like he was like extra dissatisfied with like his life or whatever, and so the wife tells him, hey, you know what, you got some sick days saved up. Why don't you take a week off, and pursue your dream, which was to do like this like painting, like this Jackson X style painting.
Yeah.
So throughout the episode, you see like Hal just like flicking paint and using like super soakers to like spray it, and like even like coating his entire body and like jumping on it, and then it's great because we never see what the painting is, but then like towards the end, after a week, he shows the painting to his family, and they're like kind of like not impressed, and like and even he's not like fully. He's not fully satisfied with his work, and like his wife is like finish the painting right now, and he's like in his exasperation, he's like I can't. He's like you have to because we can't afford a shrink. It's just like fine, yeah, you want me to finish it? So he just like grabs like a bucket of paint and just like starts flinging it everywhere, and it's like, and then slowly like he kind of like starts like seeing like the vision that he had in his mind come together. It's just like. And like the finishing, and it was like so great because like the finishing touch was like this little tiny dot of orange.
Yeah.
And it's like, and all of a sudden like it came together. Like the family's like, oh, and they were like acting like it was like the most beautiful thing they ever saw.
man.
Oh man. Yeah, art is interesting. You know, it's.
I really believe it's a group of con men that have they're conning
Well,
through
yeah,
a lot of their money.
yeah, there is that, and there's like the whole like money laundering aspect of it. It's like is this you know you know is this I don't know, soda can with a fishing hook in it worth like $100,000? No, but it's a good way to give your friend money to then give it to this other like entity and then to this corporation and yada yada yada.
Yeah,
And
well,
so
that's
and
what
then like
reminds
yeah and
me.
then like yeah it's a good way to like and then like you kind of help your friend become like this famous artist so that you could continue to like launder money through him or
Yeah,
her. So
like that's what Biden's doing right now.
yeah, no, exactly.
So he's a legitimate artist. There's nothing afoot. It's just he's just trying to live his best life by becoming an artist.
Yeah, I heard he's really interested in the medium of Parmesan cheese.
Yeah, that's right. Jesus. Or Parmesan-like substances.
Yeah, Parmesan-like substances. Mm. All right. Yeah, let's get into topics.
All right, let's do it. Where do we want to
start? Let's start with the Canada stuff because I don't think we know enough to really to get. We won't get lost in the weeds on this one.
Yeah.
So because um, yeah, right now Canada looks like it's a shit show.
That's kind of always been the case, but yes.
Yeah, Canada's always been, it really sucks for Canada to be right next to like the awesomeness that is the United States.
That's why I kind of wish we had won the war of 1812 because Canada would just be a part of the United States.
There you go. I know, right? Manifest destiny and that and all that good shit.
We'd have like more. We'd have almost the entire North American.
North American continent. Yeah, and I say we shouldn't have stopped. We should have taken over Mexico too.
But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. But it's Justin Trudeau's just revealing himself to be the totalitarian dictator that he really is, and everything and all the moves that he's done.
I also love like how everyone says like, oh, Canada is just as free as the United States. Is like, no, it's not. Like you look at their constitution, it has, or their
their charter or whatever.
Their charter or whatever. It's like there's nothing with free speech. There's nothing like saying that they get to protect themselves.
Yeah, there's no self-defense amendment. There's no right to association or religion.
I mean, sure, is it freer than North Korea?
Yeah.
But Canada is like a sneeze away from it could turn out to be like North Korea.
Yeah, no, seriously. And interestingly enough, I just learned this recently, but it's all thanks to Trudeau's mom's husband.
Fidel Castro.
Yeah, no. Like because slight dig. But because like the meme is that Pierre Trudeau is not his actual father, so that's why I said Justin Trudeau's mom's husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like because Pierre Trudeau was Prime Minister of Canada, and he was that one who actually introduced like the Canadian what was it? Canadian charter of human rights or whatever, which basically overrid a lot of their founding charter. Yeah, which then put the judicial branch almost as above their legislative branch.
Yeah, which is insane.
Yeah. And so so they get so it's they're it's the equivalent of their Supreme Court being this super non-elected legislative branch.
Right.
but the reason why we didn't like talk about it earlier is because we didn't have enough information, or just wasn't too pressing. I mean, now, yeah, it's just like kind of like it's like kind of openly how Trudeau's being like a dictator or whatever, but also like the protests didn't seem like legit to me. I mean, don't get me wrong, like I'm not saying like there aren't like people actually out there protesting and whatnot, but just like a lot of things were weird. Like one of like the founders, like his Benjamin Dichter, who goes by like BJ Dichter, he's like, yeah, he was the one like initially who set up the GoFundMe, and like it's like how is this money? Like one of the big questions is like how is this money being dispersed? And
yeah, that's always like, see, that's why like I'm always a little concerned like a lot of these like campaigns and stuff. But it's like, how is this money being used? Like where, like what is it like being used for? Is it just like to help like feed the people that are like there in the protests, to help it keep going? Is it to be used like hey, like to kind of like make it bigger, or to
or just to sustain, because they're saying that that the truckers weren't going to go until like all the mandates are reversed. But like so how much money are the truckers getting? And that's because a lot of the truckers are sleeping there in their truck beds.
Yeah.
And so it's like it costs money to for gas, and to so like, and like also like these if these people are genuinely truckers, how much are they going to get? Because especially if they're owner operators, they're responsible for their trucks. And like they're responsible for the wear and tear, they're responsible for the insurance, they're responsible for their families, because that's if the said trucker is not working, then how are they getting money to their family? How are they supporting their families during this time where they're not working?
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of and again, not saying that there aren't genuine people out there protesting or whatever, but some of it is a little iffy for me, and some things like just don't make sense, because it's like, okay, all these trucks are parked there in front of their capital or whatever, so how are they getting gas to the people? And it's like, oh, well, they're bringing it to the people. It's like, well, like where's the nearest gas station like that also has diesel? And how is that is that gas station out of diesel gas now because of all these truckers, and all these like logistical things that
Right.
people don't take into account, or just like kind of common sense thing, because it's like, yeah, like do these truckers really can these truckers really afford to not be working during this time, especially like with like all the mandates and such? Like if they are a provider for their family, how can they take like, I mean, what seems, I think is going on like 2 weeks now since this whole thing started.
Yeah, it's about 2, maybe like 3 weeks now.
Yeah, I mean, almost, yeah, going on a month now, and like with the GoFundMe being shut down, and then now like with the other fundraising website, Give Send Go, being hacked, and the government supposedly going after people's individually for and freezing their accounts. It's like, how is this money getting out to people?
Well, that like, it seems like it's because there was supposedly some other stuff that was going on that like was being done. Probably that from supposedly it was told that it was the Canadian government doing stuff like where they were actually shutting down a lot of like the nearest like gas stations within like that area. Mm-hmm. And supposedly they were throwing like nails in the road. These are just the stories that I've heard. I don't know if any of them are true or not.
Right.
And I think like supposedly like the idea seems sound. It's like, well, most of our country and like and Canada and most countries, yeah, there's a lot of goods that are sent through like aircraft and rail and stuff like that. But the trucking industry is a pretty big industry, not just in North America, but around the world. It does keep the country running, and if the majority of countries like, what, like this is stupid, and so for us to affect any sort of change and to like pressure them into like making changes and to go back to like some semblance of normalcy, we're just not going to do. We're not going to ship this stuff. We're not going to. We're gonna block this area. We're gonna annoy the shit out of the government. We're not, and stuff's gonna be backlogged. And what it's gonna do is it's gonna create a panic in the public. They're gonna go crazy, and they're gonna get pissed at the government.
No, see, this is where I think
that's the idea, or at least for a normal person's thinking, that's like what. If I was like, hey, seems like it's something. We had to do something to change this because the government's not going to do anything by itself.
No, but see, this is the danger though, is that like in the first few weeks, yeah, like a lot of people could understand like these truckers and like why they're doing this, but it's like, but then as it keeps going, like more and more shelves are going to be bare, and like it'd be really easy for them to like flip the script on them and be like, oh, well, the reason why the shelves are bare is because these truckers. And so once before they were the heroes, and now they become the villains, and it's easy to vilify them. It's like, well, like why are these truckers just like parked outside of the Capitol building? Why aren't they doing their jobs or whatever? It's like, oh, so now like the exasperated supply shortage is now now there's an actual enemy. Before you could say like, oh, the government and like their freezes or like their mandates are holding things up, but now they're given a target, and it's these truckers. Like, oh, these truckers, they're being selfish. Why don't they just get the jab and just get back to work? And so that's why I'm worried. That's why that's why I kind of or how we decide to stay away from this topic, because there's so much information. There's so many questions that haven't been answered.
Yeah, well, and that like that's not just a question. That's not just something that's being said like just now. The Canadian government did that like right away, like within like weeks. Like, oh well, this is the reason why stuff's not working, and that's kind of the danger of stuff like this. And that it just and if you think about it, that's kind of happened here too, because think about it, all the nurses and stuff, oh, they're the heroes, then all of a sudden like they don't want to get the
exactly, that's why I'm,
and so now they're being vilified and like fired. The cops at one point were heroes, but now like, well, because some criminal got shot, well, now they're vilified. Now defund the police. They're awful and terrible. So it's happening here too in other ways, and that's, I don't know, man. Like, it's protests in a certain direction are good. I think it's good to pressure the government to like to stop being tyrannical and crazy. But at the same time, like these guys are crappy. They're not going to give up their power easily. And when you
I mean, if anything, I think a better protest for them would be for these truckers to just continue their job, like in going again and just like disregarding the mandates.
That's kind of
that would be a bigger protest. It's like, yeah, you can go and like park your car somewhere and like chill out for a couple of weeks, but it's like, what would be a big what would be a bigger screw you? It's like, like I'm gonna do my job regardless of what you say, and that's and and I'm with you, and I'm in that I don't really think protests work. The only protest that works is the individual protest, and that's like if you decide to, no longer support, this business or or no longer buy this product or wherever, because then like that is a success. That is a successful protest because you're no longer, bound to, that product or that company. Like with like Starbucks when they kind of when they started to get like all about like racial justice or whatever, and then with like like the environmental stuff, they're like, oh, no more plastic straws, but we're gonna make these plastic lids that have like 8 times the plastic. I was just like, okay, I'm done, and I just stopped consuming Starbucks products. I mean, every once in a while my sister will get me a breakfast sandwich or whatever, and I'll have like the odd cup of coffee here and there, but on the whole, I don't consume Starbucks products, and
Yeah,
and so like now and that's a success because I am no longer beholden or attached to Starbucks.
yeah, and I feel like because I'm also like where I don't really see like the giant like demonstrations as being maybe the time where that did work. I don't know. But I think the reality is like it's not like one big like giant public protest, but like where people individually but collectively, like you're saying like no, we're not going to do that. We're going to live our normal life, and if you have a problem with that, like it's like you might get some of us, but you're not going to get all of us, and we outnumber you. And this law is not lawful. It was not passed through.
It's not even a law.
Yeah, anyway, there was nothing passed through the legislature. There was nothing that we voted on. So no, we're not going to do that. We're going to stick to what the laws that are on the books. And if we want a law that get reviewed, we're going to pressure our legislature, and we will work to have it removed. But until then, until you actually pass the law, the correct way, like you can't just shout like a mandate on the air and expect us to follow it, or where you're quote unquote forcing private businesses to do bidding of the government, which is essentially what they're doing. And
they're turning businesses into enforcement arms, which is ridiculous because which is stupid because that's why whenever someone asks me to or and a lot of times they're fucking pussies anyway, so they'll never say anything to you in the first place. But every single time an employee of some place tells me to put on mask, I was like, "Are you a cop?" And I go and they obviously say no, and I go, "Well, why are you doing their job?"
Yeah, exactly.
It's like like leave me alone. I just want to get my fruity pebbles and get the hell out. Just leave me alone.
Trust me, I don't want to be here either.
Right, and it's like so and just so we're clear, a mandate is an offer. All right, that's all it is. It's like do this or or don't. That's really all that's really all they can say is like because they can't enforce it like it's a law. It's just it's an offer. It's like do this for this. It's like no. I was like, oh well, okay. It's a suggestion. It's like you ought to be doing this. It's like thanks, no, and that's it.
But it's just it's really weird with all the a lot of the this campaign funding for the protesters and hey, listen, if you believe in something and you want to support it, I'm not saying don't give your money to help out these guys like that. It's your money.
But to be specific, give it specifically to a trucker, give that money directly to that trucker. If you know a trucker that's there or whatever, then you mail him a check or you mail him like 100, or a C note, like directly. But don't go through like these crowdfunding websites, and that might end up like I heard. I haven't confirmed this, but like I heard BJ Dichter, he like fled the country or something, so he doesn't like get arrested. And it's like, whoa, that's like really fucking shady.
Yeah, well, I hadn't heard that. Gee, that's kind of
weird. Again, I haven't confirmed, but this is what I heard. I heard he fled the country, so he doesn't get arrested, because I heard like a bunch of organizers got arrested. Like the other person who initially helped set up the GoFundMe, again, really weird name, Tamara Lich.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had BJ Dichter and Tamara Lich.
Yeah. Their real names, like that's just.
Yeah, Lick Dichter.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yes.
But
she got arrested. Apparently. And then another organizer, he got arrested. But then this BJ Dichter guy, he broke out and I don't know. Again, I haven't confirmed this, but this is what I heard. But if true, that's really suspicious.
We kind of touched on this a little bit, like when we were talking about the whole the Bitcoin stuff. It's like it just when you give your money to like these crowdfunding things like that, like it's kind of ether. Like where's it going? How's it being used? And there's not technically like when you hey donate like this, the money going to this and this. If you donate if you're donating money, this there's like a like there's supposed to be like kind of like a semi-contract, like hey, we're using the money for these things. When you donate your money, that's what it's going to. If the money isn't, if it won't complete like our objective, kind of like what Kickstarter does. You get your money back. Like if the product that you invested in does not come to fruition, you're supposed to get your money back.
Right.
And
interestingly enough, that's kind of like the hot water that GoFundMe got into, because when they shut down the campaign, they said that they were going to give the money out to trusted and verified charities. Basically stealing from people.
Yeah, well, it's like they stole the government did that. They stole like $10 million.
Well, no, and this was a private company that's stealing from you. That said like, oh, we're gonna send it to trusted and verified charities. Like, when that just means the ADL and Planned Parenthood. But as soon as that came out and people start throwing shit, it's like it's like, oh no, to make it simpler, we'll just refund the money to everybody, and but there's a way. But I heard there's a way to screw them over in that too. It's like something called like a chargeback.
Yeah, where it's like you falsely train, and you have to. It goes through some sort of they call it a charge. I forget exactly how it works. So essentially, they get charged by your credit.
Is it right? Bank. Is it the service, the process server or something?
Yeah, and they're getting like a 75% penalty, or some on top of like what they owe you. That
right.
They pay. Oh yeah, I put my money to this, took it from me falsely, and I'm going to challenge that, and everyone did that. You would bankrupt that company.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But, absolutely.
Invested in that.
Oh yeah, they would. Yeah, I think if half of the donators did that, then it would essentially ended GoFundMe.
Yeah, but hey, whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get us wrong. Like, of course, nobody wants an end to these mandates, more than, Rob or I. But
I'm not even like blaming like a lot of the people that are wanting to be in this, because I said at the sound, at the face of it, that seems like especially if you're in Canada, which is not really a free place. Like it has freedom, but those are very tentative.
Right. What was it? I remember, like, about like the time of Obama's second term, there was this show called Newsroom, starring Jeff Daniels.
Yeah.
There was that famous speech that he gives where where like someone in the audience asks him like, oh, what makes America better than any other country in the world, and kind of like in this exasperated fit of frustration, he kind of snaps and it's like, America's not that great, or America's not special. All right, they're like there's like a dozen other countries with the same freedoms that we do, and it's like, fact check, false.
It's very false. And that's actually how Jeff Daniels feels too. He's kind of a crazy
person. He's a crazy leftist. But yeah, like if you research like the name, like all the countries that he named, like saying like, oh, they have the exact same freedoms as America, it's like if you dig deeper into that, it's like, no, that's not true.
No.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about American exceptionalism, and that means, and a lot of people take that to mean like that America's special, but it's just. But if you take it for what it literally means, it just means that it is the exception. Like there's like except for America, all these other countries suck.
It's like, are there certain freedoms that like that the people like are they all under like subjugation, or like do they live horrible lives? No, that's not what we're saying. But all those freedoms in those countries are very tentative. Like those, they can change at the snap of a finger. Whereas
they're not protected by like they're not protected. They're enumerated, but they're not protected.
Yeah, whereas like for the United States, what's unique about us is that no government doesn't award you these rights. These are yours, given to you by God. The government is only here to have those rights.
Yeah, or not to infringe on them.
Or to infringe, and they are not to infringe upon them. And that's what makes us better than these other countries. Is it a perfect system?
That's what makes us exceptional.
Yeah. Does that mean we're perfect? No, of course not. But I would rather live here than Canada or Japan or South Korea or wherever. Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Andy. Like, I've been like, the face of it, it sounds like a great thing to do, but yeah, it's the whole trucker protest. It's had me like, something's just kind of weird here. Like, it just something doesn't sit right with me.
Right. I mean, yeah, and if these are like blue collar working people, and like they depend on their work, and how is it that they're able to take now going on 3 weeks, off, from work to, go park, in Ottawa, and it's like, it's like, and it's interesting. It's like slowly the right is turning into the left. What is it? There's that video of, an Ottawa resident, and he was at his wit's end, and he's like yelling at these truckers, saying like, I haven't slept in like 3 days, and and it's like, it's like that's not and I don't want to say, I'm not making any claims about this guy's political views, but that's not a leftist. Like, that's a normie.
Yeah,
you know, and that's and you know, like what was it? You know, like just flashback a few months, and you had like all of the rioting and like the Antifa, Black Lives Matter in the street blocking traffic. Like what did we call those people?
Yeah.
They were being fucking nuisances, and like we were like, why are you on the road? Get off the road. It's like, well, now now like the quote unquote right has become the left.
Well, I call a lot of those people that like let's just use the same tactic as the left. It's like that's a grift. I mean, it's not like
it's like what is it? Owen Benjamin had a really great way of putting it. It's like raping a girl to show her how bad rape is.
Yeah, that's a great way to put that. Yeah, leave Owen Benjamin, for his very unique brand of wisdom.
Yeah, just like cuts through right through it. Just like makes it plain. It's like, oh yeah, it's like so it's like so all those people saying like, oh, we, kind of like not the Saul Lewinsky, because he never advocated for taking on the tactics of your enemy.
No.
But but it's just it's like it's stupid. It's like oh yeah, we have to use the tactics of our enemies. Like no, then we become the enemy. Then we become the thing that we despise.
You live long enough to be the enemy.
Right, yeah. The Dark Knight quote, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And,
yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of what's happening in Canada. I mean, their right or their like conservative party is just like one step away from like one step right from the left. They're very like even their conservatives are very progressive, but but in terms of like people on, I guess you would call our side, it's like they're becoming the enemy.
Well, and you kind of see we've been talking about it, and we've been seeing it with like a lot of supposedly conservative companies that like it's like like where it's like you listen to what these guys say, and then you're just like they despise everything that like conservatism stands for. And here's the thing, like just make a good product. I don't give a shit. Like you could be like a raging like communist. Make a good product. I'm gonna buy it. I don't care. It's like I don't care about what your stupid politics are. Just make the fucking
product. Like if anything, like keep your politics to yourself.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care if like the CEO of like a company that I buy from is a raging communist.
Or identifies as a toaster. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, just make the fucking toaster, and you can have your politics on Twitter or wherever the hell else you want to have. Just make me the fucking toaster. Don't lecture me. Don't give a shit. I'm not gonna listen to you. But like this is why like I'm not really a big fan of the you have these leftist companies have or supposedly the super left wing, which is pretty much 90% of them now, and then you have like the conservative companies, and it's like come on, just
But here's the thing though, I think at least some of like the bigger ones, like they're not really leftist companies. They're what they're doing is taking up a business strategy. It's a marketing ploy.
Yeah, it is. They think that's where the majority of the country is at, so they're gonna virtue.
So that's why you have like the rainbow Oreos or like the transgender colored flat transgender flag colored like sneakers or or
it's all a grift. Stop.
Yeah, exactly. It's a business strategy. It's a marketing ploy. It's no different from when we were growing up and like your favorite cereal partnered up with like the latest Disney movie that came out, and they offered like a Mighty Ducks color changing spoon.
Oh yeah.
Or McDonald's, partnered up with with the new Batman movie that came out, and then you got like the new the Batman glassware.
Dude, I still have a bunch of those. Like, yeah, it's like,
yeah, I know.
That was fun. It's like
exactly.
It's like your glasses.
Yeah, but again, it's a marketing strategy. It's like, it's McDonald's gets to sell more like hamburgers, and then like the movie studio gets more eyeballs on their movies.
Yeah, where it's like I now instead of the Batman glasses, it's like the Harvey Milk glasses or whatever.
Yeah, or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
It's like when Audi and BMW, they have the rainbow flag on their Twitter thing, but not the Audi and the BMW in Saudi Arabia or Dubai.
Yeah, that's very curious. Very curious. I wonder why.
It's a marketing ploy, people. It's a marketing ploy.
I wonder why. That's so crazy. Why would they do that? Why would they do one thing here and then another thing in another place? It's so weird.
Because they're raging homos. That's why.
It's like what every was it June or whatever the hell the Pride is like. Mm-hmm. Every company is like, we gay now. It's like.
Right. As soon as that clock, that hand hits midnight, it's like, okay, we're gay now.
Yeah. Rainbow everything.
Yeah, rainbow everything.
And again, we're not conforming to like what everyone else is doing yet.
Yeah. All right. Like, yeah. As soon as that clock hits midnight on May, is it May 31st or May 1st? I forget. Either way, it's like instantly. It's like, all right, ladies and gentlemen, glitter your dicks and vaginas.
Strap on your cock sock and your leather straps and just right outside.
Yeah. Again, marketing ploy. That's all it is. Okay.
I don't wonder if like we just like stop buying everything just for like a month.
Dude, even for a day, if people stop buying stuff for a day, they'd be screwed.
Yeah. It's like, okay, well, you're gonna do all this stupid shit we don't like, so we're just not gonna buy anything for a couple of days. That's how that works.
Yeah. All right. Since we naturally kind of went there, let's get into the next topic, which is, this more lends itself to like the broader kind of phenomenon that's been happening, and that is kind of the tokenizing or the utter, cultural vandalism of tokenized characters and reimaginings. Reimagine. The only good reimagining is Battlestar Galactica.
The only time I've seen it work.
Yeah, all right, and fight me on it. I dare you.
I mean, true. There have few movies that have been remade well, like 310 Yuma we did. And then Chuck remade his own film better than Knew Too Much.
Yeah, and what is it? The Magnificent Seven.
Yeah, Magnificent Seven was a great adaptation of Seven Samurai. It was I thought they did a great job on that one. But there's not really that much like, we need to like switch out these characters, and we need a gay man and a black man and a trans woman and whatever else. Like,
yeah. And of course we're talking. We were inspired because of the recent show that's coming out on Amazon. The Rings of Power. Based on the work of J.r.r. Tolkien.
I mean, the Ring of Tolkien's work.
Yes. No, but we have to rape it so it knows that rape is wrong.
Yeah. That's right. We have to support it. Episode, Andy.
I know, we have to, so they know that raping is wrong. Oh man. But yeah, I just this like yeah, because what is it? Initially, like a lot of the promotional material that came out was just you know I forget in what rag it came out in, but like one of the creators was talking about like it only felt natural to you know like and this is like what he said like it was only natural for us to reflect the real world in Tolkien's work. It's like why it's fantasy. It's like why does if my fantasy
They
was like real life, then it wouldn't be my fantasy.
created a language for his book. The guy
Well,
literally.
several languages because he created Elven, he created the Orc language. Um,
He's
yeah,
created special languages for his fantasy world. It's not real life. Jesus Christ.
right. Yeah, and and the images that came out didn't necessarily help things either.
Well, it's like you said, it's these groups of people who decide that they want to gabbo their fan base, and it's like, this is not what Tolkien wanted for his story, and it's like, what? You're a racist homophobe. How dare you want to have this trans black woman in here?
Yeah, but it's like it's weird again because it's a fantasy. So why should it have to mirror our reality? That's completely asinine.
Saying that it's not that I'm saying that you can't have a black actor play Frodo or something like that. That's not the problem I have with it, because you look at something like the Coen brothers just did
that's where I would disagree with you because they would never allow it the other way. There's no because there's okay because I know some shit. There's African folklore about a spider called Anansi, and no way would they allow. And I forget there is a man there's a man character, but there's no way that they would allow a white person to play that main black character who's from an African folklore.
Oh man, but see, here's the thing: it's I don't care.
I know you don't care. I know you don't care, but I'm saying they would never allow it the other way around.
I understand that. I'm just saying, for me personally, I don't care. Just
see, this is where I think you should care. Because if you say that you don't care, then it's then what's the problem?
No, whereas I don't care if there's a race swap. I don't care if this was originally a black character. Let's say they're redoing Blade, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we are fans of Wesley Snipes. We but let's say they wanted to make Blade a white guy. I wouldn't care. It's great, cool. If they wanted to throw I'm trying to think of someone that could replace Wesley Snipes in that role. If they wanted to swap him out for a white guy, cool, let's do it. Just make sure they do a good job of it. It's the story's good. But and this I'm just don't shit on don't create this stupid story and once again, it's a fantasy land. Who the fuck cares? Hobbits don't exist in real life. Okay?
Well, yeah. Again, this is where I push back on you on this because Tolkien is said to have given detailed descriptions of each race. And so,
that's true too.
Yeah. Yeah, and so again, and even with Blade, if Blade wasn't a comic book, but just a story, and there was no visual description of Blade, then yeah, you could say you could put anybody in there. You could put you could put an Indian Indian man with a turban in that role. Then
now my preference would be to have the author's intent in there, as far as how the characters look. If you want to mess around with the story somewhat, you want to explore.
Well, that's ultimately what my point is because the artist's intention, because you can't say It's like it doesn't matter what the race of the person is. If the artist made that work intentionally, then you can't mess with that. Any more than like again, like the example that I gave about like the African folktale of Anansi the spider. If they cast a white person in that that wouldn't be allowed. They'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, like so you have to take the artist's intention into account, and and I think and they're so again, I point back to Battlestar Galactica because they did it the best. They really did do it the best because they did include Glenn A. Larson, the originator of of the Battlestar series. And they yes, they gender swapped Starbuck and they gender race swapped Boomer, but like it worked.
It really worked.
They made instead of Starbuck being the suave kind of a charming fighter pilot, they kept the fighter pilot element, but they made Starbuck this messed up this maladjusted woman,
yeah.
who is understandably maladjusted because of past traumas. Okay, great. They gender and race swap Boomer from a black male to an Asian female.
Oh, and
but anyways, yeah, but like it, ultimately the race didn't matter in like the universe that they're from, but it's like, but it made for a more interesting character and particularly and also like the character development.
I'm
and that's all it's so rare that like a gender swap works or like a race swap works, but
yeah.
It has to be done very well.
Well, we look at like the remake of that. We have Denzel in there. I forget who the Asian was. Those were
he was the front man from Squid Game.
Race swaps. That kind of worked.
Right, and for the time, it kind of made sense because yes, it's not as though there weren't any Asian people in America. Yeah, if you, like most of the railroad in the West was built by them.
Yeah. Well, plus you have like the great Denzel Washington like in there too. So I
know how are you gonna hate on Denzel?
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, and there was a Mexican character as well, and so
that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense too, but it wasn't like, and yes, the town that the town that they lived in was majority like white people. It's like okay,
well, and the bad
that's also
that's
also tracks.
Bad guy from being a Mexican to a white guy.
Yeah, no, well, that's probably kind of more in line with like some of politics of the time, but
because the actor that they used was technically not Mexican. He was
that's true, right? Eli Wallace.
Neither here nor there.
Yeah, that's neither here nor there. But yes, I mean, particularly like this specific property, like Tolkien, like Lord of the Rings and stuff. Like you have to take into account artist intention, because like even though like there were no like black elves or black hobbits, there were people of a darker hue described in his works, and yes, they were mainly the villains or whatever, but it's like that it's not saying that all of them were bad. It's just like they were just aligned with the bad guys.
Yeah. Yeah, it just well, I mean, this is what happens with like a lot of film for. I mean, I think this is like the last what?
Say 10 years.
10 years, maybe more.
Give or take.
But like it's where you have like these remakes, like, you know, like they're a lot of the left wing, you know, people are like, hey, let's remake Ghostbusters. Like, you know, everyone loves Ghostbusters, but no, we can't have, you know, guys. We're gonna have all girls, and it's like and it's not actually gonna be like a Ghostbusters film. It's gonna be, you know, shitting Busters with like the you know, I don't like it. That makes sex, like, and they vampire these very popular properties because they know Ghostbusters. Cool, I'm gonna have a new Ghostbusters. I'm there, and so they're gonna make their money. But it's like when you're there, it's like this is shit. And
yeah, because they rely so heavily on the brand, you know.
Yeah,
and
because they can't make their own, and when they can't make their own good film, like you have like this. I haven't seen it, but like I've heard nothing but things about it. It's like, okay, if you're gonna, let's say like you can make your own film, like fine, have your film a female whatever, just make it a good, for me, just make it a good story. Like there was like the 355 or whatever that like recently came out, like I think it was like last year, which tanked.
Well, no. It was supposed to come out last year, but because of COVID, it came out earlier this year. Like, yeah, it was in January, I believe.
I thought it came out last year. I've been saying.
Yeah. Well, again, it should have come out last year,
but it tanked.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, this was stupid.
Yeah, because I mean, there can only be so much like suspension of disbelief. Because you have like, you know, like these, you know, 90-pound women like throwing these 200-pound men around like rag dolls. It's like, okay. But then also I heard like the story was kind of shit too. I heard so.
Yeah, but you know, it's you know, I look at movies like Alien or Aliens, or you have you know, like the first two Terminators, and it's like you have these like super strong female characters who are still like the women. You know, like they're not like obviously
they're still feminine.
Yeah, but they're
strong. They're strong, but they're still feminine.
Ripley, I think, is one of the cool characters in film history. I mean, she's awesome. I love Ripley, and I have no saying that. I think she's super cool. But then you have like you know, and as much as I like Charlize Theron as an actress, but like Atomic Blonde is like, this movie's stupid. You know, it's not good. It's like,
wow, really? You're the first one who said that it's not good. At least that I know, like personally, like some people said, like, yeah, it's good. You're the first one. You're the first one to say that it was shit.
It has elements. Don't get me wrong. I liked watching it because I get to look at Charlize Theron, and that's 90% of why I watch the film. But it's not like I'm like, yeah, this is like I've seen better like spy thriller action films, and this is just not it. I wouldn't say was I entertained? Absolutely. Was it a good movie? No.
Okay.
I mean, I guess it did its job. It entertained me. I was entertained, but like it's just kind of like this is stupid. This is not a good film. But then again, I watch a lot of terrible.
You watch a lot of schlock. So
I mean,
it's sometimes it's hard for me to gauge like, you know, what movies.
I've only watched like Santa Claus versus the Devil like, you know, times like this. Doesn't it's like but
yeah, I mean, there are times that I understand like how we're friends, but then other times like, how are we friends?
But yeah, I mean, I do like terrible films, like, you know, or like Birdemic. That's also awful. It's so fun to watch. So Atomic Blonde is one of those like it's terrible. It's still like it's entertaining. Like I'll probably watch it again at some point. But it's not like you have to really suspend a lot of disbelief there. And that's what, like, a lot, you know, but you can make a good film, like, talking about, like, you know, these, like, subjects that you want to, like, we've said it numerous times. Predestination, it is discussing a subject that we don't agree with at all, that we think is, you know...
or at least, like, there are definitely spells being cast in that movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
A certain narrative being pushed there. But yeah, I mean, I was still aware of it, but the story was compelling enough for me to be like, okay, yeah, this was a great story.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it again because it's
because I knew that the spell was there, I could disregard it.
Even knowing that the spell isn't like what they're trying to do, it's still a fucking great movie.
Yeah, I mean, but knowing that it's there, like you can disregard it and just enjoy the thing for what it is, and it was a good story.
Yeah, I absolutely love that movie. Because I initially, like, when I was like, oh, I see what they're doing there. Oh, I was a little concerned, like, when I first heard the premise of the movie. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be like one of these movies, and I watched. I was like, oh wow, this is actually entertaining.
Yeah, no, but it was just done very smartly. And
Ethan Hawke is really underrated as an actor. I think really good. Mm-hmm. And then the female, I forget her name right now, but she's actually really good in the movie too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But yeah, it's what they do is, like, they vampire these, big properties that everyone loves. Lord, a lot of people love Lord of the Rings. Like, there's a very, I mean, I love the books. I definitely like the original trilogy, or the trilogy that came out, 20 years ago. But yeah, I didn't like The Hobbit. The movie, The Hobbit. The movie series sucked ass.
Well, yeah, the Hobbit movies. Yeah, that was bad because they were initially going to go with another director, Guillermo del Toro.
It should have been one film because the book is super short.
Right. Yeah, they really kind of drew things out and they split things that shouldn't have been split.
It's not actually the Hobbit.
But yeah, there's a lot of problems because Peter Jackson, from what I remember, he almost took a decade or something to get to prepare for the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
He gave shit, that's why.
Yeah, because he gave a shit. But with The Hobbit, he was kind of it was kind of thrown into his lap after Guillermo del Toro had to drop out of the project. And so so he wasn't able to put in his usual kind of effort into things.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, what these people do is they take a property, they skin it, and they Buffalo Bill that shit, and and just wear as a skin suit. Oh yeah, we're exactly the same, and it's no, you're not.
No, now we're seeing that not only in movies, we're seeing that in TV shows. Now there's that new, what is it, Bel-Air, which is supposedly this new Fresh Prince of Bel-Air,
the Fresh Prince reboot or reimagining.
I refuse to watch it because I don't want to. I mean,
in respect to James Avery, I will not watch that.
Well, yeah, that's part of it too. But no, will it damage the original show? Absolutely not. But at the same time, there's going to be a whole generation that has watched Bel-Air.
Yeah, that's gonna be their Fresh Prince, and it's
God help them.
Yeah.
Whereas the sitcom, not only was it entertaining, it said something at the same time. There were some of those episodes where I mean, I wasn't bawling, but there was a few episodes where I'm damn, this is a heavy episode, and
I mean, there was that one where they get held up and Will gets shot, and it was that was obviously propaganda against guns or whatever, but it was still also a very emotional thing because Carlton felt this guilt because Will got in the way, kind of saved his life essentially. And so he felt like this guilt, and he went out and got a gun to for protection or whatever. And there was that emotional climax to the episode where Will it's like saying like, oh, like, I saved your life, you owe me, give me that gun. Because
that one's powerful. The one like where Will's dad abandons him again.
Right, yeah, the dad episode, that was the most emotional episode.
That episode really just like hit you in the heartstrings.
Yeah, because you, I think it was very relevant. I mean, I think for the actor himself, like Will Smith, because I think his dad did abandon him or whatever.
Yeah.
And so so he was drawing on all of that, and yeah, it was very powerful, and it's and then and at the end of the series, Will finally, I think he understands that Uncle Phil's is his dad.
Yeah.
And and again at the end of the series, they had that because the family's kind of going off and doing their own thing, and so and Will's kind of feeling this abandonment stuff, but he makes he makes that line saying oh, you're gonna on Sundays you're gonna be calling all your kids to see how they're doing. It's well, what about me? And at the end Uncle Phil as he's about to leave, he calls back to Will. It's Will, it's like Sunday, letting him know oh, I will be calling you too. I will be checking in on you too, and kind of solidifying that I'm your dad.
Yeah, that was a big powerful moment too. Where it's damn, that's and why don't you just re-show those old episodes? If you really want, that show really does.
It holds up.
Yeah, it still holds up. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, some the fashions and the set design or whatever are dated, yes, but it's but the overall message, some of those more poignant episodes, they still hold up.
Once again, everyone's oh, Bel-Air, are they making a new Fresh Prince? Awesome. Oh shit, this sucks.
Yeah, and I mean, it was another YouTube commentator who said this, but it's because in one of the previews, he was talking about how oh, Will, you just have to be yourself, and just be your charming self, and you'll take over this place like you did West Philly or whatever. And it's that's stupid, because and the YouTuber he made a point of saying the whole progression for the character was for him to get out of that mindset, because even in the first episode he was talking about he was almost kind of talking trash to Uncle Phil, saying oh, you sold out, you live in this big house or whatever, and da da da. I'm just trying to keep remind you where exactly where you're from, and your peoples, and da 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 da. But it's the great thing about that show is Will's progressions. He's learning to adapt himself to his new surroundings, and yes, he tries to remain true to himself, but he's also developing himself as a person.
Yeah, and that was the thing, where we see some of I guess now it's time about Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which this is a show I really love. Mm-hmm. The idea a lot of those first couple seasons, Will had he was really struggling being in Bel-Air and being in this
classic fish out of water kind of story.
Yeah. And so he's trying to I need to hang out with my hood friend, kind of really kind of how it is back in Philly, and he even tries to get Carlton involved in that, because you never live in this situation in your life, you need to wake up, man. And in reality, he gets his cousin in trouble, or he puts him in a bad situation. It's shit, and he's trying to he ends up having to come clean to Uncle Phil. And even there's this one episode, I forget what season it's in, where a friend of Uncle Phil and Aunt Vivian comes to town, who's one of those super radicals, one of those kind of
yeah.
And and Will is like enamored by her, and it's like, oh man, she's so cool. Like, Uncle Phil, you sold out, man. And it's like, and even like it's like, I didn't sell out. Like, it's like, fighting from the inside is just as important. Like, I stand up for like people who are oppressed and all this stuff. It's like, you don't know a goddamn thing about me. And like he sets it straight. It's like, yeah, maybe I took the route like where I can take care of my family and do the things that I'm fighting.
I care about.
Time. So don't you dare tell me that I sold out. Now, and it's just like, you really feel the Uncle Phil's heart in that scenario.
Right.
And it's
like,
God damn, like all these episodes are super. They mean something. Yeah, you're sharing a good laugh. Like, there's the gags, like, especially Uncle Phil throwing out jazz.
Yeah.
Which is the same scene. Like,
they didn't like update it at all. It's just the same scene, the same shot that they did in like the first season. They just like same one.
When he's gonna get thrown out, he wears the same shirt like when like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But despite all the silliness, the show is always saying something, and it's not like some like super left-wing thing. It's like it's actually a conservative show in a lot of ways. And,
yeah, I mean, Dad, who was a lawyer, who then becomes a judge.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he doesn't want like the trouble that that Will got himself into in West Philly. He wants it in his neighborhood.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, really, it's a really conservative show, and like it's like kind of like and portrayed like a nuclear family. Mother, father, brothers, sisters.
The family's together.
Yeah, family together. Strong, male figure, but an equally strong, like a strong father figure and an equally strong mother figure. Who balance each other out. Sometimes, Uncle Phil was like the terror, and then sometimes, Aunt Viv, she was a terror, and Uncle Phil was the one that had to restrain her, and so.
And that's how real life is.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, there were a bunch of times where my dad was like, he was a disciplinarian. And then other times there was like times, and my mom would have to be the one to be like, oh, just calm down. He's just a kid. And the other times where my mom would like, try to rip into me, and my dad would be the one to like, oh, calm down. He's just a kid. And it's like,
oh man.
Yeah. So it's totally relatable. Like, and it doesn't matter that, that they were black actors, like I could still relate to these characters.
I didn't even think about that at all. I mean, yes, I know that they're black, but like, it wasn't like, oh, black show. Like, I don't want.
I know. Ew.
Yeah, I watched that. I watched Family Matters. I watched like Martin. I watched like a lot of the shows. Like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, and like like the D.L. Hughley show, like the Wayans brothers.
Yeah, or and I mean, you really think about it, like In Living Color is more of a black. I like that more than I like like SNL.
True. Yeah.
Mad TV also I like more than SNL.
Yeah, and I didn't mind that it wasn't live or anything like that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
But
especially the bit that they did, like Lowered Expectations, that like the video dating service. Lowered Expectations.
God, that was such a great bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I want to show everyone is like, listen, don't obviously, yeah, we like the things that we talk about old movies all the time. We talk about old shows that we love all the time. But and when they're getting remade, it's like, is that going to be like any good? Like sometimes like a movie remake is good. Like they do a good job, and you can tell the people that actually give a shit about like the original. They just want to present it to a new audience, and that's fine. And you can, but then there's also the people that are doing the cash grab, or like they're trying to cast their wizard spells on you, and
or they're just gonna, or they just want to commit cultural vandalism.
Yeah, and where it's like they hate that movie, they hate you, but they want to sucker you into like spending money on something that's like gonna make you feel bad about yourself. Like Ghostbusters, the female one. It's like I refuse to watch.
Yeah, I still haven't, even though like it's played on TV sometimes. I see it and I see, oh, Ghostbusters, and I check the guide and it's like, oh, 2016. It's like pass.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not a huge fan of like Ghostbusters 2, which was not a great movie, but I love the first one. The first one's awesome. And I'm not sure if I'm gonna see Ghostbusters Afterlife either. I'm not like.
I saw Ghostbusters Afterlife. It wasn't bad.
Wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad. You'd be entertained.
Okay, well if I'm gonna be entertained, then that's fine. But like I'm a big fan of like I really like the original. The original one's great. Mm-hmm. Second one is not so great. Mm-hmm. The 2016 remake I refuse to watch, and maybe I'll watch this other one. I don't know. It's not high on my list. Just say
okay, that. I mean that's fair enough, but yeah, you'll be entertained, and the little girl in the movie, she does a really good job.
That's a girl. That's a girl.
The granddaughter.
To be honest, I thought it was a really offensive boy.
But yes, it's a girl. Well, oh, I'm talking about the younger kid. Yes, ha ha ha. Yeah, he's the kid. You're talking about the kid from Stranger Things, right? Yeah. Okay. Ha ha. Yes. Ha ha. Skinny jeans. Ha. Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong, but yeah. But like, in all seriousness, though, the little girl, she's the one that steals the show.
Okay. Based on your recommendation, Andy, maybe I'll give it a watch. Maybe I'll watch it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. No pressure. No pressure. Yeah. But so I think to put a bow on it, I think we have to get past this period of time where it's where progressive politics is being injected into our entertainment because it no longer becomes entertainment. It no longer becomes culturally relevant. It just becomes properties. They just become like hollowed out skin suits that these new things try to embody, and ultimately fail.
I'd fuck me.
Right? I was waiting for that. I was like, I set you up, and I was like waiting the entire time for you to like come in with that. But artist intention matters.
Yeah.
I mean, just as they, they would never allow for a white Black Panther, neither should we stand for kind of like these race swaps that really don't make sense, because like especially in like to reference the new Tolkien based TV show that's coming out, they have a black dwarf. It's like the reason why Tolkien had them all white is because there's not a lot of light underground, because these dwarves live underground and they don't see a lot of light.
Yeah.
So it's like, how is a dark-skinned dwarf supposed to happen?
Is it the guy from Bad Santa?
No, I mean, they're doing the. I don't know. I think they're doing the movie magic thing because, like, they had, John Rhys Davies, who's actually like 6 foot in real life.
Yeah. Okay.
Played Gimli in the original trilogy, but they, through movie magic, they made him look like he was like 4 foot. But yeah, like that one image of like the black dwarf princess or whatever, who's a single mom, by the way. And a way to not reinforce stereotypes. Amazon.
Single black transgender dwarf. Awesome.
Way to not enforce negative stereotypes.
Like we just need to have him like handicapped, like no hands. So
Yeah, and with the EBT card.
Yeah.
There you go. Way to not lean into negative stereotypes, Amazon.
Jesus. But it just just be more like aware, like of what's going on. Like I said, we look at like these old movies, and some of them are like have maybe they're saying like uncomfortable things, but that doesn't mean that they're like that the message is bad or like or whatever. But like don't buy into like all the wizardry. And even some like the old movies like just don't necessarily have like the best message in the movie either. There's a lot of movies like I look back when we did our review of American Beauty, I was like, oh god, this movie is like awful. Like the messaging is so terrible on this movie. And I remember I liked it when it came out. I was like, oh, this is a good movie. Nope, no, it's not. It's actually a terrible movie. So
it's quite literal shit.
Yeah, we did not give it a good rating.
Nope. Yeah, same as you. When I initially saw it, because I was a dumb kid. I was like, oh wow, this is the most. Wow, this is such a deep movie, and I watched it again. It's like this is such trash.
Yeah.
But anyways,
that's all I got to say about that. It's it's just you gotta be more careful, guys.
Indeed. All right. With all that said, let's move into the movie review, and let's wrap this bitch up.
All right. That sounds like a plan. Oh, I'm gonna use the bathroom.
All right. I'll hit everyone with the synopsis, and we can get going. Again, just to remind you all, the movie tonight is titled "You Are My Sunshine." Again, a Korean movie from 2005. Seok-jung, a farmer in his mid-30s, is desperate to find a wife. He falls in love with the delivery girl, Eunha. The couple's marital bliss is short-lived, however, as Eunha tests positive for HIV and is tracked down by her abusive ex-husband. This movie, I don't know if it really matters to you guys, but the movie stars Chun Do-yeon along with Hwang Jung-min. The Korean translation for "You Are My Sunshine" is "너는 내 운명."
Yeah, I was looking at.
And again, and the title of the movie comes from the song of the same name, "You Are My Sunshine" by Jimmy Davies,
which kind of becomes like a kind of a theme song for the movie too.
Yeah, it is part of the soundtrack.
And I don't know what their budget was, but it made $17.5 million, so I assume it did well because I think this is a low budget film.
Probably, yeah, because I mean, there's like only like really like a few like locations. So yeah, really kind of with a frugal kind of planning on the movie maker's part.
Yeah. So I have a quick question. Like, so Jung is definitely like he's an old guy. Like what? Like
it's in the synopsis. It said like mid-30s.
So he obviously. Why do you think that he had not like necessarily been involved? Had like another girl in his life? Like it's alluded that he obviously had never slept with anyone before Yuna, but why like he? But he, like had like no other like women in his life. Why do you think it is?
Maybe the changing culture. Also, because a lot more women are encouraged to go out into the work field, get a job for themselves. The usual feminist bullshit.
Yeah. He's not in a he's been actually he, unlike some of his friends, have actually been pretty smart because he saved a lot of his money and being investing in a lot of this stuff where he has a plan. He does. It's not like he's poor. Although he super wealthy guy, means, and he does live in a very small farming community, and wondering if but he's interested. He wants to because the first time that we meet him in this movie, he's going crazy with this. I don't know if at first I thought it was like a travel agency, but I guess it was more like a dating service that he was.
Well, yeah, it's kind of an agency because it's.
He was defrauded. He felt, or at least he was defrauded.
Well, yeah, it was kind of like an agency. I mean, no different. I mean, kind of like in the same vein as Russian mail order brides. This agency would kind of set men up with women from Vietnam or the Philippines, to bring them back as wives.
Does, I think.
One of his friends does, and so I guess he does go through the process and goes down to meet this potential bride. But for whatever reason, he decides to back out, and so he's trying to get his money back. But they're trying to. I think there is a money back guarantee sort of thing, but they're trying to I think they were trying to trying to keep their money, of course. But he crazes such a stink that they refunded him his money.
Yeah, it didn't work out for him.
Right. Yeah, because I think there was something on one of the advertisements saying oh, you for sure get you'll for sure get a bride or your money back.
Yeah. So a man of his principles is hey, you didn't live up to your contract.
Right. Exactly. But again, but how you said, he seemed, he's a smarter guy, and so he's gonna take that money and put it into his own dairy farm or something.
Yeah, I think that was his he was he wanted not just work on a farm, but have a farm and kind of community in that way, and kind of be an independent guy.
Right.
Yeah, so that's how we meet first. Our main character, Suk-jung. But then, yeah, to be honest, it actually took me a little bit to figure out Yuna's kind of process.
Yeah.
First, she was kind of this very free spirited, she's a loose woman. Give me a second. It's oh, prostitution.
Yeah.
Want a cup of coffee? Oh, I see what they're doing here. It took me a second to but she's not just doing the coffee shop. She's at the karaoke bar.
Yeah, she's or what's it called? Oh, she does Tomi work. Tomi in Korean just kind of means I guess because there is Tomi work that isn't explicitly sexual. So I wouldn't equate it to escort, but companion kind of work.
Well, we've kind of been part of that too, where there's some Korean bars we gone to, where it's they have girls that
they sit with the guys, and they'll drink with them, they'll eat with them, they'll kind of feign interest.
Yeah, it was fun. It's fun.
Yeah, but it's not like explicitly like a sexual thing. It's just like it's just kind of I mean it's less ceremonial than like say like a geisha.
Yeah, like it's more. I see it more like it's something like it's kind of fun because it's to be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I've done it before, but like just sitting at the bar alone is like it's kind of like but it's kind of nice to have like somebody to talk to, working like, and that's kind of like what that service is like.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, the Koreans do it the best.
Yeah. What a feather in our cap.
Yeah.
What a feather in our collective caps.
You guys are like you guys have done it the best. That also can get super freaking expensive though. I had to.
Yeah, because like especially if you go to like a specific place that has it, you have to buy like a bottle, and you have to buy the food, and then you have to buy
that's
and then you're also like paying like by the hour, and then the tip, and it gets really expensive. What was that?
That's a $200 night at least.
Maybe like 5 years ago. But,
yeah. Well,
I mean, not that I know. Not like the last time like I did that was maybe 5 years ago. But it was. But even back then, it was still like up until like closer to 400.
Well, we also went as a group too, so that's probably held that expense.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, it's better to go with buddies, but then like you have to have the right balance, or you have to get like enough like for like 4 guys, like I guess 2 domies would be fine.
Yeah.
Because then But anyways, yeah. So like it's really weird, like the culture in Korea, like surrounding like around like kind of like prostitution and things like that. Like there's laws against it, but it's just like they can get away with it, and like kind of like these kind of loophole kind of ways. Like so you have like these cafes that do like coffee deliveries, but it's like it's a smoke screen. Kind of like if you kind of in the same way that if you get a hooker and you have just like a tripod with a video camera there, it's like, oh, it's not prostitution, it's pornography.
Jesus Christ. I mean, like, it's the same thing.
I know exactly, but it's like, but it's not. But one is against the law, and one is not.
That is so true. Well, I mean, technically, pornography, the guy's getting paid too.
Right, but it's like, but that's kind of like the smoke screen, like how like with like these cafes that do like coffee deliveries, quote unquote. But it's just like again, it's just a smoke screen.
I've never taken in this. I've heard stories from people that I know who have done these sort of things where it's like the way they circumvent that, it's like, oh, you're hiring someone as like to kind of like as a companion, like the same thing with like at a bar with like the Korean bars. But like where you're putting money at, like it's an escort, like, but where you're donating, it's a gift. You're not like paying anybody.
Right. It's a gift.
I'm just giving a gift to this person. Like I enjoyed their company. I wanted to like give them something nice. It's like that just happened to be cash money.
Yeah, cash money.
Jesus Christ! We live in a really shit society. I'll just have to say.
Indeed. But yeah. Moving along. What is it? We kind of get like a day in the life for Sukjung, and like one fortuitous day, he's on his way to work or whatever on a scooter, and he's passed by, going the opposite direction, this like scooter gang of lovely young women, in the flock, it just happens to be Eunha, and he's immediately captivated by her beauty.
Cheesy like Korean drama moment for the slow motion pass.
Yeah, exactly.
But to be honest, I would say like that's probably the most realistic of things. Like, because sometimes like when you see that like one that you're interested in, it does feel like the moment it kind of does slow down for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, a la that Simpsons episode where they talk, where Homer and Marge tell the story, the kids the story of how they first met.
Exactly. I mean that is a very realistic thing. For at least I don't know about how like girls feel about it, but I know that's a guy thing. Where like sometimes.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you could based on experience as a guy, you can say that is a guy thing.
Yeah, and that we are seeing through the eyes of Soo-jung. So yeah, of course, the time slows down when he sees this like very pretty like Yuna, scootering by. So that he is obviously enamored by her, and I think he's following them on his scooter just because he's like, I gotta talk to this girl, and he's end up having, I think he meets up at like that cafe. They all end up like kind of talk for a bit, and it's like they meet to do like later with his friend. Like he's about like, oh man, I saw this like super pretty girl with his friends. Like, oh, we should do do like like or is I want to like marry that girl and all this stuff, and he just like can't get her out of his mind, and his like they end up like him and his friend end up going to like karaoke, and like that, and like Yuna is like a part of that like that group, and it's like, oh shit, she's here, and he's super entertained by her, and he just can't keep his eyes off her, and like gets like the videotape of like their time together at the
karaoke.
Which I'll be honest, like if we were ever like like at like one of those like Korean bars or a place like that, like I would not get a fucking videotape of my time.
I know, right? That's what that would be considered evidence.
Exactly. But he keeps like, hey, like he ordered coffee from Yuna for like, hey, and I think his intentions are innocent. I don't think that he's not like looking to sleep with her or anything, but he just wants to be around her, and like he's like, hey, I actually just want to have coffee with you, like, and just like to talk and like hang out. And if like you want to rest, like just if like you're tired or whatever, just just rest, fine. Like I just want to hang out with you and see you again. And but she tempts him, obviously, like, hey, like, why don't I could use, if I'm gonna take off my clothes, and I kind of need your arm to rest. And then they end up sleeping together, obviously, and I think that that's his very first time. Like, I don't think he's ever slept with a woman before. I don't know if you got that same feeling.
I don't know if they actually, I'm not wholly convinced that they slept together that first time.
They totally slept together.
Okay, hear me out. Just because he seemed like, because when, okay, I'm jumping the gun here, but when eventually he does win her over, and they do actually like go to like a motel or whatever, like he seems really jazzed and pumped to be sleeping with her. In that context.
I just want together like in the.
Well, no, I know. Like, yeah, there was like that scene. Like, it's not expressly stated, but it's alluded to. That's what happens because, he kind of like goes in like a kiss, and like there's like a tumble out of the bed or whatever. But like, although, yeah, you might be right because when there's that other scene where he goes to like give her money. He's like, "Oh, you don't have to do this anymore." And just like, it's like, what? You think you can, you think you control me basically because we slept together? So you're probably right.
Yeah, like at the very least, like, it wasn't just kidding. I was just saying, like they definitely like.
Right. Yeah. So I retract my previous statement.
But I think that was his first time. Now, I'm just saying, like, I think that was his like first time ever in that.
Like with a woman.
Yeah.
Okay. Because like for sure he jerks it because there's a scene.
Oh Jesus! Oh come on! His mom's like, stop like jerking off in your underwear.
Yeah, there's that scene where because there's that other scene where like he's kind of doing I guess what would be considered the simp thing now, but he goes and like helps clean the sign at the cafe that she works at, and just like he kind of like is like making himself too available for her.
Here's the thing: is based off of our review of what was it, Strip.
Mm-hmm.
Technically not a simp, according to, because I felt like that one character was a
You're right.
Moore's character.
Right.
But he was actually putting himself out there. Like he was taking it. He wasn't just spending
You're
money
right.
on
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mean like as though like he was actually being a simp, but like what people would now consider being a simp. But yeah, like because that guy in Striptease, yeah, I give him a little bit more props because he was actually like there in front of Demi Moore's character, as opposed to just like sending her letters or whatever.
Whereas I'll give this guy props because he's definitely putting himself out there. Like he is risking.
Right, he's another kind of romance comedy that I just was reminded of was that movie Phenomenon with John Travolta.
Oh yeah, it's a good movie.
But there was kind of towards the end of that movie, Robert Duvall's in that movie as well, and he, everyone's kind of like shitting on the John Travolta's character, and Robert Duvall's character asks another guy, he's like, oh, like how's so and so doing? He's like, how are you guys doing? It's like, oh, we're not together anymore. It's like, oh, it's like, did you ever buy her chairs? And it's like, oh, what are you talking about? And this kind of goes to an earlier, very early in the movie, because John Travolta's character was in love with this this woman who made chairs, and he would always buy her chairs. And the secret is like, oh, every woman has her chairs, and it's just like and it's up to the man to find out what that is, and like kind of like show her that kind of attention.
Right.
And so
and like today's culture, he would be considered a simp, but I think he always like. I certainly think that he did have like a limit, like where he was willing to go, but he felt like that this girl was worth it, and he was concerned about. I think he actually was concerned about like her lifestyle and like what she was doing. Like, I want to get you out of this, and I'm willing to risk, certain to get you out of this lifestyle to give you.
Right. Yeah, like he was like willing to give her like all like this cash, like probably cash that he was saving up to buy his own farm and whatnot. And he's like, oh no, I'm gonna give this to you so you can pay off your debts or whatever, and like, you can stop doing this.
Yeah. because there was like a time where like it was like around this time, like, you know, because she's resisting him, and she ends up I don't know if this like hit Suk-jung's mom, and you know, because she's kind of like, oh, like, you know, he's not like really with anybody, so tries to set him up on this like blind date with this like really eager woman who I'm like so glad he didn't get with, because she's like, you are like way too thirsty. It's like,
right, because pretty much I'm pretty sure she was like kind of like around the same age as, you know, Suk-jung, and which would put her into her 30s, you know, and that's like the danger zone for women. I mean, I'm just being real here, people. All right, you know, there is a biological factor to, you know, these things, and, you know, and like especially if they wanted to start a family, like they're creeping into the danger zone.
Yeah, exactly, and because Yuna was kind of warming up to him, and then
but also because it's like, here's a guy who like lives out in the boonies and like wants to be a farmer, and she was like really, you know, she was like really all about like farming and like dairy cows. It's like, oh yeah, she just wants to get married as soon as possible and have a baby. That like that she yeah.
Concern, yeah.
Yeah, that was her only concern.
Yeah, but like it pissed off Yuna, and like, she ended up going off on this another coffee sales trip, and ended up getting beat up by like the guy that she's with, and
by the John.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, because this is where like we start getting into the because you kind of told me like semi the premise of the film, and I don't know if like it's like, because we see like, you know, it's like the cut on her hand, and like there's, you know, there's blood. Like I know, like, you know, we're getting from like where there's gonna be, you know, HIV involved, and it's like the way that the camera lingers on the cut. Like, is this where HIV? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure when this, you know,
just lingering
let me just get this out real fast. I'm not exactly sure when like this diagnosis of HIV comes from, because you know, there's that initial scene where like, you know, all the girls go to like the free clinic to get tested or whatever, but you know, the courtship is, you know, much longer than the amount of time one would expect to get results from a blood test.
Right.
And so, and then like you have that, and then you bring up, you know, this scene where, you know, she's attacked, you know, on a coffee date, and suppose, you know, but there's like no real, you know, but you know, there's no like there's no sexual, there's no bodily fluids being exchanged, and it doesn't seem like this John like is sickly, not like, you know, what we'll see in like the ex-husband when he comes into the picture.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem like that John from the coffee date like cut himself or anything, or there's any like kind of transmission through like blood that I remember seeing. So it's like, so exactly what, so yeah, so I'm like curious, when exactly does this infection occur?
And I think the director did perfect, because it's like it's the like where we're listening, because in a way, it's like, especially people in that type of lifestyle, they don't know either. So I think it's like where like, you know, we have like the lingering, like the cut, the hand, the blood, and then like even with like, the ex-husband who is clearly sickly, and we know he's like, you know, banging across like all, you know, all across the country or whatever. You know, it's like he's even said like, oh, tested it for anything. And so it's so there, you know, we see like the blood test at the very beginning. I'm like, there's really never any like definitive moment where, oh, this is where she got it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even after she got like And even after they got married, I'm sure there was like some sort of physical or whatever that happened.
Oh yeah. So
prior to their getting married, so it's like, when did she get tested again? Where like when like the doctor comes and like reveals the diagnosis to Sukjong.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's really left up to like a lot of questions. Like we just know
Right.
in this movie. But I remember that scene. Like, man, they're really lingering on that like that. And like I'm wondering, is this where she is right here?
Well, I thought more is just like the brutality of the attack that they just kind of like wanted to sell home.
And too, it was a little like beating that she took.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of like when, because she pretty severe. Like Sukjong was like the only one. Once again, he's the guy that is consistently there. It's like, hey, you don't have to like love me or anything, but like I just want to get you out of this life. I care about you, love you. I want to be there for you. You don't have to respond back, but like I can provide a better life for you, regardless. And if you'll let me, I will be here, and no matter what. And I think like she starts to see like, oh, this guy really does actually care.
Give a shit about me.
Yeah, like no other guys here for me. Not even like her supposed friends are there, caring about.
Right, the other girls from the coffee shop or whatever. Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's just part of doing business. No problem. She'll be fine.
Yeah, although like there's like a joke made early on, like with one of the women. She's on the heavier side, but she's married, and it's alluded to that her husband beats her.
Yeah, that's how I was like. I was like kind of thrown off. It's like, because I wasn't sure like, oh, like there's like a group of, like friends that are like they're a little bit like loose, and it's kind of like
like your Sex and the City types.
Yeah, like that's kind of what I was. I didn't think I did prostitutes right away. I was like, later like, oh, I know what they're doing here. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you just married a terrible person who beats you.
Yeah, because it's like even after they got married and like there's a scene of like her coffee shop friends like helping out, and one of his the friend that married the Filipino girl, she even asked like, oh, like what happened to your eye? And so it's I know it's played off for comedy, but it's a kind of a sick commentary on like the lives that these women live.
Yeah, it's not a good life. Like that's.
I mean, if they're not being beaten by their husbands, they're being beaten by Johns, and and vice versa.
This is like it's not a good life. I don't understand like why people want to like live that lifestyle.
Right.
And it's not necessarily like they're in some ways like stakes are not as high for guys, but at the same time like there's a lot of women that men too. Like it's kind of like it's a bad cycle. There's bad women and there's bad guys.
I mean there's like there I mean for every one of woman who does tricks, there's probably there's also women that that just roll Johns.
Yeah, like Cardi B.
And like Cardi B. But yeah, it's funny though. After that she finally relents, and she sees Sukjong as a good man, and they get married, and it's really funny how the mom kind of turns around, because initially she was like against him getting with her, But then at the wedding, she's like, "Oh, yeah, I know she worked in the coffee cafe, but she mostly, she didn't even like do that many runs or deliveries, and like she mostly worked in the kitchen." And like one of like one of the women from the village is like, "Oh, like what?" He's like, "She worked at a coffee shop. What kind of kitchen work could there have been?"
Yeah, exactly. What I think that she liked was like that, like really like it's and like, respect is like, hey, like why don't you go on your vacation? Like you've done so much like your son and for your family, like you deserve time for yourself. You'll take care of things here. You'll have fun.
Yeah. So it's like, instead of like them going off on a honeymoon, I really think that they, give the mom money to go off on the trip that like, some of the people in the town were planning. And you have like this really warm moment between, Eunha and Sukjong's mom, and
Yeah, I like that moment a lot. I was like, that's cool. Like, it was a moment in the movie. It was like, oh, we're at the end of the movie here. Like, this is gonna, things are gonna.
Yeah, right. Everything works out, great for these two.
To be honest, like, I think we would have been good at the point I ended there, but that's not. I was like, oh, God, we got an hour to go in this movie. Like, oh, something bad's gonna happen.
Yeah, again, Koreans love their drama. All right.
And so, Sukjong, he's doing his thing with like the kind of like home. He had to like not out of town, like kind of like he had to stay for a bit, and he was like, oh, we stay in contact, and then like her, she you know, I get this phone call, and it's like, oh, it's thinking it's Sukjong, and it's like, oh no, it's this other guy that she was involved with. And it's like, how dare you wait for me? I finally found you, and like, if you don't want me to do blah blah, like you have to come see me, all this thing. You can't run away from me, and the movie gets really like uncomfortable. And I was telling you before the stream, is like, I think River has really like traumatized me. Like I'm like, not that I'm like, oh yeah, rape is awesome, but like that River is like really fucked me up. I'm like, no, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see the movie. Like,
little pussy can't take a little rape.
Yeah, it's like, can we just like allude to this? Like, I know what's gonna happen. Like, I got it. I don't need to fucking see it.
Right. Yeah.
So like horrible. It's not as horrible as I've ever seen. That's
well, because the Wind River one like really guts you, because like, again, I mean, we explained this fully, but it's like that's like the only scene where like like everything in that scene is warm, and I mean not just like kind of like the exchange that the two lovers are having, but like just visually, like there's like warm colors, in the shot.
Yeah.
And so it's like, when like the rape happened, it's just like all of it's like that's like ripped out of you. It's like gutted out of you. And I mean, not like, and like, there's some like really sweet moments between Eunha and Sukjong, but it's like it just doesn't like it's not like it just doesn't have like that same effect.
Wind River, it's not like Wind River sense like where there's no happy moments up until one like 5-minute section. The carpet is down from under us. This movie's more of a roller coaster. Like we were kind of
highs and lows.
Yeah. We go up, then we go down, then we back up, and back down, and it's so we have that moment. And the ex-husband, he's sweaty and shaky. It's like, oh, this, and this guy has HIV.
Yeah, this is the one that gives him. Yeah, this is the guy who gives her AIDS.
It's kind of a guy, right? It's like, and this is where we like take, and this is where like Sukjung like goes through like a lot of struggle because he's like he still loves,
Yeah, but like really quickly. But this is how much you know that the ex-husband is a bastard because he said like she came and brought him money. He raped her, but then he still goes and like reveals himself to the husband, to Sukjung.
Yeah, what a dick.
So like so that's how like he's a sociopath because like it didn't matter that he got to like he screwed her and like and he took like the whatever money that she initially gave him. He still went to Sukjung and like got even more money from him.
Yeah.
And
everything everything he owned.
Yeah, and I mean what is it? There was a scene where like just before like Una, or probably while Una went to go see her ex-husband, there's a scene where Sukjung and like his friends, they're like helping one of the cows give birth, and then it's later you see him selling off that cow to give the money to the ex-husband, and you don't, and I don't. For those of you, it might be lost on like why that was a big deal. It's because especially because he was trying to start a farm, and and he's a dairy farmer, and a lactating cow only starts lactating after it gives birth. So like so whatever money he was gonna make off milking that cow is now gone because he had to sell that cow.
Yeah,
so he sold off his future, so he could protect his wife. And so so that's why it was such a big deal that he sold that cow, because that cow would have been able after giving birth would have started producing milk.
It is a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how much like he's willing to sell everything to care to care of his wife. That's how big that was. And I think like in a lot of ways it also find like doctor is like, hey, you're where did this like is this like the test from like the very beginning of the movie?
Right. This is where it kind of unravels for me a bit. In that, like, so when did she become infected? Because it's like, if it was early on, because like presumably like the time from like when they first meet, which was the same day that she goes to get blood tested, when they meet to when they get married, it had to there had to have been like a courting period, and I want to say like at the very least like 6 months.
Yeah, exactly.
And so so in that time, that like there's no way like that the blood test took that long for them to process. Even given like as developed a country as Korea is, it's maybe it's not as developed in that they can get blood tests that quickly. I want to say, but then even then that would lead to her have been infected like prior, and maybe that happened even before she even got to that small village, because we find out that she ran away from her husband, changed her name, and so and like who knows, like maybe she because she like so quickly after she leaves Sukjung, like she's like so quickly kind of falls back into so easily falls back into prostitution.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that like even when running away, she still went into prostitution, or she went into prostitution so quickly like after running away. So like maybe that was from a prior infection from like when she was like living in a bigger city.
Good, yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like maybe it was something like she was like out doing that again. We just don't know. Like,
yeah, the timeline is really the timeline doesn't track. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I think that it's this is where like, maybe like that is a ticky tack thing, but like obviously she had it. Suk Jung finds out. It's like, oh, he tries. He gets a blood test, and like he's like constantly like, what do I do about this? Like, do I tell her, not tell her?
Yeah, but see, and again, that's something that that doesn't track either, because I guess he was able to get his results, in a relatively quick manner.
Yeah,
because he found out that he didn't have it, and so yeah, so it would definitely had to have been sometime. She had to have been infected sometime after that first time when she goes in the beginning to get tested, and then when they get married.
Yeah, and he's also keeping that like fresh.
Right, keeping it from her. Yeah.
Keeping it from her, like kind of like, and I think he's like taking place because he doesn't want to burden her with everything, and I think, but she knows something going on, and she realized, like, I think he knows exactly what's happening, and it's kind of like this like, unspoken thing between them. She just like, but he, instead of like dealing with it, she takes off, and that's where like kind
right. Yeah, because there's that scene where like he goes to lie with her, and he grasps her hand, but she doesn't grasp it back. And I think at that moment, that was when she decides, like, oh, he's a good man. I can't do this to him anymore, so I'm going to just break out.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of crazy. And he ends up giving everything to go for her. And, like, and from, I think from what we understand, it's been over a year. I mean, for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, he still wants her. Like, he still wants her back. Mm-hmm. And this is where we get some of like the typical Korean drama elements. Like he gets like belligerently, the guy who like, had like, a drop of alcohol like his entire life, like he's drinking you or whatever, and like yeah, whatever. Like life doesn't.
Yeah, just to dull the pain. Anything to dull the pain.
Yeah, and it's like what's going on here? And
that's right. I totally forgot about that, because like when they first meet, it's like, oh, I don't drink. But then then he gets like wasted and like causes a scene at a fucking funeral.
Yeah, and the other thing is, he's a lot. This is Joe and his wife, Jobin, or not his wife, sorry, Hosea and Gomer. This has a lot like Hosea and Gomer, like just give up on her, like doesn't want you, and like you're wasting your time, and there's a lot of pain, like doing this, like all of his friends and his family telling him, like she's gone, dude, like just get over it, like
you like move on.
And no, I can't. I made a commitment to this person. I love this person, and they're in a lot of pain, and I need to help them. I've already given everything I have to do with this person. Like, I care at this point. And see her, she's just gone like, full prostitute. Like she kind of like to pay back. Oh, she gave all that to Suk Jung, but she sold her. She put herself in like slavery, sexual again. And
yeah, for those of you, just think Squid Game. When what's his face? He signs that agreement saying like signing his bodily autonomy away, basically, basically.
That,
Same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing. Thank you for bringing that analogy.
Yeah.
And she apparently, like, you know, she's been doing that for a year. And people have been getting... She's affected by that. In fact, before that point,
right.
People getting sick can't do this prostitution ring that she's in, and she ends, you know, everyone gets arrested because like, you willingly put all the danger by sleeping with them because when you have HIV, what? She had no idea.
Right. And here's the, this, the media is the same everywhere you go. They're trying to sensationalize it, saying like, oh, she was angry at the world, or she was angry at men, so, she knowingly, became a prostitute to affect as many men as possible.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah. But it makes for a great headline, though.
Oh, of course. Why ruin a good story with truth?
Right, exactly.
And I think that Jung like finds like words that she's in, or like she got it's like what she's there. Like he runs and he's out of that.
Yeah, his drunken stupor. He runs over to the station and like.
Yeah, and this is where this is also like I'm like, okay, this is where it gets a little ridiculous. Like his, like, this is where I was like, very drama, like, ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Where like it's like, yeah.
He's like screaming. He's screaming her name. He's like, "I'm here! I'll protect you!" And like, he gets tackled by like 7 cops.
Yeah, it's maybe don't act like a like person. Just like just like I'm here. Like peace out. Don't act like
But again, like this is first time seeing her in a year, so I mean a little understandable. Also like fueled by the alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's over the top, but it's given the context of like the situation, a little understandable. Plus, he isn't like one of like these scrawny city guys. He's like a big brawly farmer dude.
He's like city cops.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he took like 7 cops just to restrain him.
And obviously, like, in the trial itself takes like a bunch of time too. She refuses to see him. His family is, essentially like, you're an idiot. Don't see her. You're a disgrace to the family. And he's like, I don't know what you. They prison is like, okay, clearly like he's not gonna like pay attention, so we're gonna tell him like don't use him away, like you're his family, you're just and
basically like disownment. If he comes around, don't see him. And she relents and she follows their instructions.
And then you have this is where this is part of the movie like where it gets just like, okay, this is the and drama element where I was like, this is the easy aspect of the film. Suit myself like drinking lye, I guess, like
it's liquid lye.
Liquid lye. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, like.
This is where but again, God, I wish this was like an exaggeration, but Korean people sometimes are this dramatic.
Okay, I was like, this is so stupid. Like,
I know. Like, it's to Western or like non-Korean eyes, like this would seem like extreme. But like, like I've seen my fair share of like Korean people like getting like to the point where like, they're like fighting, and they're like, oh, you want me dead? You want me dead? All right, and someone goes and grabs a knife and like puts it to their jugular or like to their wrist. There, I'll kill myself right now then.
Drink like a Drano or something.
Yeah, so it's not exaggeration.
So okay.
Koreans are very passionate people.
So he ended up going to the hospital
because he does drink the lye because understandably his mom is kind of over the situation and like kind of frustrated and and as a mother it must be very painful for her to see her son in so much pain. And so, but kind of in like, Koreans are like the quintessential like reverse psychology people, where it's like they'll give you the instrument of your death. It's like, all right, fine. It's like fine. You want to kill yourself? Kill yourself. They'll put a knife in front of somebody or
here's a like
here's some drink up and die. I don't care. It's like. But it's like when they get and he kind of lays it all on the line where it's like, oh, what is AIDS? I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. I love this girl. Like, I don't care that she has AIDS. It doesn't matter. Like, I took the test and I don't even have it. And the mom is like so exasperated, like, you're such an idiot. And then because his mom not understanding, he starts drinking it, and it's so funny because initially she was like saying like, oh yeah, go drink this lye and die and be out of put yourself out of your misery. And then like immediately she's like, oh my god, my son, come someone help my son.
He did it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I love movies. It's so ridiculous.
Koreans are they're like the worst at like reverse psychology. Like, yeah, go ahead, kill yourself, see if I care. And then the son proceeds to kill himself, and the mom starts freaking out.
So he ends up going to the hospital, obviously.
Right. Yeah. Because he destroys his vocal cords.
I don't think he can really talk more.
Well, I mean, yeah, he definitely for sure burned his vocal cords, and but it's in the hospital when the mom, the Suk-joon's mom and him kind of have their they have it out finally, and she understands what a detriment she's been on her son's life, and and then she decides okay, yeah, this is your life, you have to live it. I'm gonna go live with your brother and his family, and you can go and live your life.
Yeah. So I mean, there's that. So that was kind of you kind of have that healing there,
mm-hmm.
And then you have he gets recovered in the hospital. And finally, decides I will see you, because he's been backing, the freaking the prison, I gotta see her, I see her, blah blah. It's well, she doesn't want to see you. Well, I don't care. I'm gonna see her anyways. And they finally have that moment where it's they, she's trying to live up to her family's wishes, but they and finally, it's obviously she loves him, he still loves her,
mm-hmm.
and it's just they they're working towards they have a really special moment. It's oh, time's up, and this is
she's she's kind of dressing him down, saying oh, you're such an idiot, don't I'm an insect. You can't be with an insect.
Yeah.
And just trying to kind of just basically cruel kindness. You know, she's trying to like save him, you know, from ruining his life or whatever by, you know, by holding on to, you know, holding on to her, and it's like, so she's like, you know, trying to like, you know, just like be cruel to him to, you know, be kind and like, you know, so to save himself from like any pain. Um, but you know, it doesn't work because the man's is a love drunk fool.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is like I think that he is a very noble guy, maybe foolish guy, but he's very noble, and you know, it's like it's not like where he's courtship process. He made a commitment to the person, like he married her.
I mean, even and like, you know, kind of the final reveal is the agreement that him and the ex-husband signed, and it was, you know, that all that you know, Suk Jung promised, you know, and using her real name, which is, you know, what was it?
Her name,
Ok something. Ok.
In the they don't say what I'd have to go back in the movie because they don't say it in like the description of what the movie is. But what her real name was, he uses her real name. It's like, and parents like you.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I promise to you know, take care of her for the rest of my life. You know, kind of like in all of that same kind of agreement that one would you know, sign away their bodily autonomy as like kind of collateral.
Right. Yeah. It's the same type of agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but the condition is he go away forever.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I mean, there is that moment, like, you know, like while she's like in prison, like that ex-husband comes back and he like beats the shit out of him, which is great because that definitely deserved it.
Right. But interestingly, you know, like he does make a point though, when he was like saying like, it's like, you know, when he, you know, saying like, oh, you don't, you know, when John was saying like, oh, you don't love her, I love her, and then he was like, and the report's like, oh, you love her, you like, then why couldn't you have found her? I was the one that found her. I was the one that turned her in. Um, you say, you know, you say that you love her, you know, you can't even take care of her. You know, kind of like taking a shot at him like that.
Yeah, I think that I don't. I think like he took it, but like it's not like he's not. It's a disingenuous thing. Like there.
Well, I mean, I think it does make a point that like, you know, he was the one to be able to find her.
Okay,
so he, you know, so he does have a point. But his love is not like, his the tainted love. It's not actually love.
Here's the thing though, like, yeah, you can say sure he may be the one that found her again, but Soo-jung never stopped searching for her. But like, when she was with like Soo-jung, like actually married him, he also found her. You know, so you know, that's the thing. Is like, guy is a dirtbag of the highest quality, and yeah, his love is not really love. He is a horrible person that deserves to be 6 feet under, as far as I'm concerned, because he was not a good. If I'm like convinced that they were actually married, but this guy was like convinced like, oh, I'm the only man you can get. You know, I love you, or whatever, and he was very sick. Possibly, he definitely cheated around.
Even after like he raped her, you know, he goes and, you know, does like, you know, like the whole like scream thing and calls her up and it's like, oh yeah, and like, you know, you see, and then was
it's not that he's another like Soo-jung who's like, you know, trying to find, you know, where he's the bad person, and like he's trying to find his lost wife, and like there's this like kind of like love triangle, like where like this guy like, you know, is been searching for his like long lost wife, and like now you have like this new husband kind of thing, which would be a completely different story. No, you're a terrible person.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, clarifying, not saying that he loved her more, but you know, he does make a point that, you know, he was the one that found her. You know
what? Yeah, here's why he found her, because he's banging whores all over Korea, and so he probably found like, oh, I'm banging this whore here, and she kind of like, hey, do you know about like this? You know, he gave her a polite description, like, oh yeah, she's over there. That's how he found her.
Yeah. Again, not making any like qualitative comparisons. Like psychotic. Like worst of the worst kind of abusers, because he was also like psychologically abusive. Because he played like the kind of like frail, timid, like, oh, like I still love you, and then also like I'll fucking beat you to death if you ever leave me.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
But anyways, like we have they finally get back to Suk-jung and Yuna finally have that moment, like while during the visit, they finally get a visitation together, and this is one of those like another just maybe you'll prove me wrong, but like this just feels like, oh, this is so ridiculous. This like moment where like time's up, gotta go, and like she's like. He's like, no, and like he's just like beating on the glass, and like, and he ends up like trying to like rip down the whole like the foundations of the prison just to get to her. I'm like, okay, this is like, dude, you're gonna get thrown in prison with her. Like, it's just, come on, man. Like, how he didn't get arrested, I'm shocked.
Yeah, yeah, that was a bit much. Yes, Korean people are very, over dramatic. And I could see something like him like kind of like banging on the glass, but not to the point where like he's ripping off like the speaker, just so he could like get like just so he could like physically like touch her.
Which
that's a bit much.
A bit much. It's touching. Don't get me wrong. Like
again, touching, but a bit much.
But I'm like, okay, this is where I was like, oh god, this moment is so ridiculous. But at the same time, it's more of like, I think, especially at this time, this is where like Korean and American movies differ in a way, because in American movies, there's more of like we can feel the emotion, you can show the emotion and the tension without actually like, you can tell it without showing it. And like we as the audience feel it. It's like, oh man, there's a lot of emotional tension here, and like they want to be together, but they can't. We get it, but like with Koreans, like at that time, it's like, nope, gotta show it. Gotta show the guy ripping down the fucking foundations of the prison so he can just have that handhold. It's like,
It's not. That's and like kind of like the opposite of American or Western movies where it's like, oh, like the whole like hand on the glass thing, and it's like, oh, that's enough. It's like, no, motherfuckers, Koreans, we're gonna go for it. We have to like, I have to hold your hand. I know. Fuck. He's like, what is prison? My love is more powerful than this prison. Yeah, kind of like modern.
Prison be damned. But that's kind of like, that's like really the climax, and like he ended up like, I will be here, just like I've always been here for you.
Trope, the beginning is the end. And so, yeah, like in the beginning, you see like this shot of, like this snowy field, and you see Suk-jung, kind of like wading his way through the field, and he's And he's wearing the same clothes that he's wearing. The beginning of this movie is actually the ending of the movie, and it's him going to the prison to pick up Eunha. And he has his new cow or whatever.
I definitely think that this couple makes it.
To show her, to show that they're that they can start their new life together. Agreed. Yeah, and I mean, and for the most part, she kind of got off light in her sentencing, only like 2 years in prison.
Well, I think that she had a good lawyer because
right. I think he was able to argue
she had it.
intent.
It's like well, I mean, she's still
guilty
she's
of prostitution, but not guilty of intentionally
this, so,
trying
it's
to
not
infect people with AIDS.
Exactly, because she should have been, if she was doing it intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you should put her in for life at least. But obviously she's not doing it on purpose. Like, you're guilty of prostitution for sure, but like you're not guilty of trying to like infect people and kill them. You didn't know. And so she had a good lawyer, and so she gets off in like on a fairly light sentence, and of course Soo Jung's gonna be there for he, and I think that I actually think their life is gonna be difficult in many ways, but I think this is a happily ever after because they've gone through hell and back.
Agreed.
Before we get to our rating of the movies that we watched, what was your favorite couple of the ones that we've dealt with? Like, which couple did you like the most?
Of the couples, just a quick refresher.
Because we had Yuzo and Masako from One Wonderful Sunday. We had Mike and Abby from The Ugly Truth. You could argue we have what's his face? Shit. Sorry, let me go to A Place in the Sun real quick. I gotta look up the characters' names again. Actually, I have my notes. Duh. Let me go back to my notes from last week. We have George Eastman, played by Montgomery Clift, with Alice Tripp, or we have George Eastman and Angela Vickers. Since we had technically we had two couples.
Technically, we had a throuple.
Yeah, exactly.
We had a throuple in the last movie. My favorite couple. I don't know about my favorite, but the more fun couple was definitely Mike and Abby.
Yeah, I kind of had a feeling you liked them the most.
I mean, I don't know how I feel just yet, but it's but in terms of fun, that was the more fun couple.
I really maybe this because this is the movie that I chose. I really like Yuzo and Masako. I really relate to that situation and that couple where you have a woman that I just want to be around you. I don't care that we don't have any money. That's not the point. I just want to spend time with you. We'll go wherever. It doesn't matter. And
I suspected you'd think that couple.
I really love One Wonderful Sunday. That movie just speaks to me in a lot of ways. I don't know why. It just when I watched it, I was like, God damn, I totally relate to this story for some reason. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that like obviously A Place in the Sun is just a fucked up movie.
Yeah.
It's a fucked story.
Yeah,
but,
it's hard to muster up any kind of sympathy for. I mean, except for Shelley Winter's character,
who is Sean Bean before Sean Bean.
Before Sean Bean. But yeah, but it's just hard to like muster up any type of sympathy for George Eastman, and not even for like Angela Vickers either.
No, I don't feel any sympathy for her because she's a dumb kid.
Essentially.
But then you have, I mean, even like in this movie, like it's not that like the characters aren't awesome; mm-hmm. They are. I like, Suk Jung and Yuna.
Yeah, I think they're a very lovable couple.
Yeah, they're awesome together. I like them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just that story in One Wonderful Sunday just speaks to me for some reason. I don't know why. It just does.
Okay.
And I think all the like I think our couple in this movie and what the hell is the fucking title? The
this movie?
Yeah, what the hell is
You Are My Sunshine.
Movie? Yeah, You Are My Sunshine. Thank you. I think this couple makes it. I think that Yuzo and Moscow make it. I'm not so sure about Mike and Abby, just because they're so opposite of one another. I think they definitely have like a passionate like romance, but I don't know about like a long-term like they're gonna get married. And then obviously like George Eastman is like
George Eastman dies, so
yeah, well but even like let's say like he wasn't like a dick and like kind of fucking over like had it been like just him and Alice, maybe they would have made it. I don't know.
I think like I said previously, because of the similarity of backgrounds between George and Alice, I think if Angela did not come into the picture, then they would have made it as a couple.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I think like had Alice or had Angela not been like any part of this movie, I think the story of Alice and George would have been a really fun one. I think that they were a great couple.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, you have nothing else to add. Let's give our rating.
I'm going to give this one a 4. I did like the movie a lot. I did have, don't get me wrong, it had some cheesy moments, but that's because it's a 2005 Korean film.
And it's cultural too. So.
Yeah, it's going to have those cheesy moments, which is fine. I'm totally okay with that. But I think this was also based off a true story, I believe, or a somewhat true story.
Was it? This is the first I'm hearing about it.
I heard that this was actually very loosely based off a true story, but it was supposedly a true story.
I'll have to look into it.
But I really like this movie.
Oh.
I like the characters.
Well, on IMDb, it says it was based off some gossip, real gossip.
Yeah, like I said, super loosely based off of a potentially true story.
Mm-hmm. Trivia based on a true story? Yeah. Oh. Anyways. I'm with you. I'm gonna give this a 4 also.
Yeah, this is really fun.
This is a solid movie. This is a solid story. Yeah, there's some kind of inconsistencies with like the timeline of Una's infection.
That, and I think that was but to be honest, I think that was intentionally done.
All right, fair enough, but I'm still digging it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I remember when I first saw this movie way back when. Like, yeah, the story was just, like, it stuck with me so much. Yeah, and kind of like that element of like falling in love with someone at first sight. Very relatable to me, because I can honestly say it has happened to me. More than a couple times in my life. And that's why I think that element of the story does resonate with me because it actually I actually can remember a time that actually did happen to me. Like I saw a woman and like she was so beautiful that I instantly fell in love with her.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, again, like I can't speak so much for women because I've heard stories of women like falling in love at first sight, but yeah. But for men, I would argue for men it happens a little bit more often.
Agree.
Yeah. All right, there you have it. That's our review for You Are My Sunshine, in Korean, Nonu Ne Unmyeong. Both Robert and I give this a 4. Really good story. Even despite the, I think Robert, you'd agree, like the ticky tack kind of ding that we give it for like the inconsistency, the timeline of Anna's infection. But yeah, really enjoyable. Would recommend. So yeah, do yourself a favor and check it out.
Absolutely.
All right, folks, that'll bring us to the end of tonight's stream. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. I know Rob has a good time.
I always have a great time. I get to talk about movies and stuff that interests me, so I'm always having a great time.
There you go. Don't forget to check out the library of other content that we have, the Circle of Jerry's main podcast, Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, Twitter and Letterboxd at PodcastDOJ, and Instagram at Circle of Jerry's Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us, and we ask you to come back next week, and we'll do it all over again. Have a good night.